Hey, what's up, and welcome to episode number 74 of the Agostinho Zinga Show with me, your host, Agostinho. How the hell are you guys, man? How are you? I hope you're well. I hope you're well hydrated, well fed, well rested, and ultimately looking forward to this jam-packed show I have for you today. As you can tell, I'm packed full of energy. I'm like half glass full type of energy. You know why? Because I just came back from Primavera Sound in Barcelona. I'm fresh off the plane. A day. I've been here a day now in London, right? So I'm still a bit groggy. I still got a bit of a plane hangover or whatever you call it. What's that thing when you called? Oh, jet lag. Plane hangover. Imagine calling it a plane hangover. Crazy. Can't find the words to say simple things. But yeah, I've got a bit of jet lag. Primarily because we got the earliest train. See, Jesus Christ, man, you've been on a plane for so long and your head is throbbing with all that bass and beats that you can't even put sentences together. Let me start again. We got the earliest plane out from Barcelona, and it was the just before 7 a.m. plane, right? So it was at 6:50, and it arrived back in London at about 8 a.m. So I got back home around 9:30, which was amazing. So on paper, it was a good deal, right? Good idea to do it, but the actual practicalities of it were not so great. Number one, because the festival actually ended on a Sunday. Even though no one goes on a Sunday, we didn't end up going on a Sunday anyway, but it actually ends on a Sunday. So then if you end up leaving the first thing on a Monday morning, that means you have to be very well behaved on Sunday, or at the least, what you could do is just maybe stay up the whole day, right? Just stay up, kind of nap until late afternoon on the Sunday, and then just stay up Sunday evening until Sunday morning, and then kind of get your sleep on the plane or on the train, or the bus back to whatever your city you're in, right, from the airport. But as you guys, I'm sure, are aware, sleeping on an airplane is a lot harder than you think it is, right? Especially if you're not one of those people that sleeps at a moment's notice, right? My mum's like that. She can sleep in a football stadium, right? She could sleep at a Slipknot concert. Like, she could just go lights out and she's completely flat out. But for anyone that's like a normal human, as I am, you can probably fall asleep anywhere, but you still need somewhere comfortable to fall asleep, right? And a Ryanair seat or any low budget airline that goes across, or any kind of domestic flight airline that you have in your country, right? It's not probably the best idea to sleep in, because mostly, especially the budget airlines we have in Europe, they don't have reclining chairs, right? For number one, the seats are not that comfortable. They squeeze as many seats as they can into a very small plane, and you end up in this weird crooked position where you can't really sleep that well. And usually, because it's June or the end of May, if you went when I left a couple of weeks ago, last week, you're usually on a plane with a whole host of people, right? So from anywhere between someone like your age, someone a little bit older, parents, families, and ultimately kids, especially really young kids. I'm not really sure why parents like to take their kids on holiday on planes and shit. I don't really know what that thing is about. I guess if you're with your family, you want to you probably want to go traveling with your kids. I guess that makes sense. And maybe getting someone to look after your kids when you're away isn't as easy as it sounds, or maybe you just don't leave your kids with strangers. I don't know what it is, but I don't really get the idea of taking kids on a plane at that age, especially when they're like under 10 and shit. Everything about a plane just pisses them off, right? So they're crying all the time, or they're just fidgeting around. You know how kids are, they're just always like talking and shit and making noises, which is not really the most, it's not the most advantageous environment that you'd want when you're on a plane and you're deprived of some sort of sleep, right? You want kind of some peace and some sort of zen. But that doesn't happen when you're on a plane at the end of June, beginning of June, ending of May, beginning of June, July. All those summer months are probably the worst time you want to get on a plane, because literally everyone's on it. Especially if it's a flight that is cheap, right? If it's a flight that is cheap, then usually everyone else is buying that flight too, because it's cheap. I think my outgoing flight from London was like 100 quid, and my flying back from Barcelona was like £55. So it was a flight that everyone wanted. But now I understand why people come back on a Sunday, especially because the festival runs from Thursday to Sunday, but effectively it's really only Thursday to Saturday, or if you're really strict, you say it's only Friday to Saturday. I see people come back as early as they can, because, you just want to get out of that place and just kind of, rest and kind of get yourself recalibrated. But it's going to take me a couple of days maybe to get myself recalibrated. It might take a workout, which I'm going to do later on today. I'm going to go for a bit of a run and just kind of get a bit of a sweat on, have a shower, wake up early in the morning tomorrow and go to the gym and just kind of get back into my routine. Because at the moment I'm still feeling a little bit groggy. But overall, man, what an amazing trip. I went to Primavera with some friends. We had an amazing time. And I don't know, man. Can I just say something honestly and put it out there? Just be, just be my honest, straight to the point self. I think Primavera Sound is the best festival I've ever been to in my life. Hands down. I don't care, man. Best festival ever. I went to Camp Flogner. I've been to Download Festival, the Metal Festival. I've been to Reading and Leeds. I've been to Lovebox. I haven't been to Festival or Glastonbury, right? It's only ones the kind of big ones in the UK I haven't been to. I've been to Tea in the Park. I've been to the one in, what's the one in Hyde Park? I've got the name of it, right? But I've been to a few festivals, right? And I can comfortably say that Primavera is my most favorite festival to go to and probably the best festival I've been to in one. It's such a magical venue, I think, in general. The layout of Parc de la Forum is just great. It's just so conducive for a good festival. I think I mentioned before I left in episode 73 of the Agostinho Zinga Show, which you can check out before you listen to this one, that it's not the best festival to go and to try and see as many people as you can within a given space of time, right? Because the stages are really spread across. They're spread across a massive site. So it takes about, I'd say it takes about 10 to 20 minutes to get from one stage to the other. Maximum 20 minutes, right? So it's not like, usually when you go to a festival, they're kind of like, let's see my book, right? Usually festivals like kind of like in a U shape, like kind of like, and they're kind of square. If you listen to audio, it's kind of like in a square rectangle shape, right? So you have the main stages like along the edges of the square, and you can kind of run around, right? That's usually how the festival layout is done. But Primavera Festival is spread out across a massive site that's like they do loads of events there. I'm not sure what kind of events they do. Someone mentioned it the other day, but I kind of forgot what events they were. But it's a massive site that kind of looks like, for lack of a better term, it looks like loads of semi-professional football stadiums kind of linked together in like a concrete park. You know, semi-professional football stadiums where it has like the field and it has one stand on the side of the pitch. That's how Parc de la Forum looks. So that one stand is sort of like a kind of a look. It kind of looks like like a Colosseum, like a weird sort of like Roman cathedral, right? Like the kind of steps that you can sit down on, and then they're kind of joined together in like this park sort of shape. So you have to kind of travel across bridges and go down ramps and shit to get different areas and stuff. And it's right next to the water, so like the coast next to the beach. So all the DJs kind of play along next to the beach, and there's a stage kind of next to the beach too. It's just an amazing site. But I think the site itself, even though it's really big and really expensive and it takes ages to get anywhere, especially when it's busy, especially when it's like a time when everyone's playing, or especially when it's someone really popular playing, right? I still think there's nothing that comes close to being at Primavera Festival. There's just, especially seeing the stages from the top of the stairs downwards. Like there was one day, I think there might have been a Saturday, when Black Madonna was playing towards the end, right? And she was playing a DJ set, right, on the main stage of a festival, and we were at the top of the stairs, and all you could see were heads and hands. You could not see one square of concrete where it was free, where you could kind of like move in and kind of like jump in there. There was no way, there was no space. It was just a sea of people, and I was like, "Oh my god!" And Black Madonna was kind of performing. I think like a cage. I think it might have been a cage was performing behind, and it was insane. I was like, imagine DJing in front of that many people, right? With that level of intensity, with that love in the air, and just everyone just having a good time, and it's so hot and warm, and oh my bloody god, that's what basically dreams are made of. I was like, Jesus Christ, that is amazing. That's what made. It just took me. It took me a while to kind of catch my breath watching it. Honestly, it was amazing, really awe-inspiring, and just the general organization of it. Like, there's a few searches at the gate before you get in. You can't take any liquids, of course, because usually festivals have their own drink partnerships with who they kind of link up with, and they want to make sure that you spend money in the festival so they can kind of get some money back. Because I'm assuming a lot of these festivals, it's hard to make money back on, especially when you're booking really big acts. You're having to pay a lot in booking fees. You're having to pay a lot for licenses in order to kind of hire the venue. Local authorities going back and forth with them. So I'm assuming the money that they do make is primarily through their merch, the sell, the food, and all the other stuff on the kind of add-on stuff that you get there. But when you go there, the searches are quite minimal. They don't really pat you down. They kind of search your bag, make sure you don't have any weapons or anything stupid in there. If you have, you're allowed to bring in a water bottle because they have water fountains. But then if you had, I'd say it's the only slight I'd say about Primavera Festival, there's not enough water fountains. located in the areas where the stages are, especially the main stages. So, for instance, when I was watching Arctic Monkeys and Lord, you can imagine, right? You're watching Arctic Monkeys and Lord, who I've not seen before, right? Live. I like some of her stuff. I've got a couple of her albums on iTunes or whatever, but she's an amazing, amazing performer live. Like, if you haven't seen Lord live, please do see her. You will. If you're not a fan, I'm sure she'll convert you. Like, she was amazing live. Great performance. She was wearing this a great dress. It's sort of like tutu, kind of like frilly thing with a bit see-through paneling and some Nike trainers. I overheard a couple of girls saying, "Oh my god, it's so amazing that she's wearing trainers." You know what I mean? She was super comfortable on stage. She had these dancers, choreographers who were dancing behind her. She joined in a bit too. She had them lift her up and whatever. But it was amazing. I fucking loved it, right? Great time. But then that stage, because it was one of the main stages, right? So it had it had the biggest kind of space in between each stage where a lot of people could kind of stand around, because I'm assuming Lord and Arctic Monkeys were probably some of the biggest draws on the lineup. But there wasn't a water fountain next to that place. You had to go all the way back to kind of the front of the arena, or the front of the layout, in order to kind of get anywhere. In order to get any water. So I just think that's the only problem I have with Primavera. They need to install more water fountains next to them, especially the main stages. I don't expect them to do it at every stage, but especially in the main stages, they definitely need to put more water fountains there. I guess the only pushback they'll probably tell you is that the water fountains at Primavera aren't water fountains that Primavera Festival have installed. Their water fountains are already part of the site. So maybe it might be a little bit hard to kind of get other fountains done, but I think that would make it perfect. But then obviously that if you don't have a water fountain at the stage, it encourages you to buy a water at the bar and stuff, which is a bit annoying because it's €2 and blah blah blah. That's the only slight I'd have on it in general. And if I'm being completely honest too, the bar staff were not the quickest. Although they were super friendly, super chatty, really fun once you got their attention, but they weren't the quickest, I'd say. But I'd say generally in Spain anyway, if you've been to Madrid or you've been to anywhere in Spain, I've been to Madrid a couple of times, and Barcelona a couple of times, it's safe to say that service isn't, it's not unique, right? It's like representative of like how it is in general in Spain. Like, they kind of take their time, you know, like nothing's a rush. But when you're at a festival, especially when I was waiting to get water before Skepta came on, and then, you know, he kind of performed 2 tracks whilst I was waiting in the bar, but, you know, had some fun, made sure I danced and stuff before I got my drinks served to me. But overall, an amazing festival, an amazing time. Great organization, not that much searching. The security guards are not overbearing. They mostly stand at the front of the arena, making sure nothing crazy is going on down there. The actual site, you don't really see that much heavy security. There was more security, I remember last year. I remember seeing a couple of armed guards and stuff last year. I'm not sure what happened last year. Something happened in Spain, terrorist attack. Maybe something happened. I don't remember. But I remember seeing a lot more armed guards last year. So this year there wasn't as many armed guards. It was a little bit more low key, but there was a lot more Londoners. A lot more people from the UK were at this festival this year than last year. I've heard a couple people complaining about that, but for me, I'm not that bothered by it, because I think the lineup at Primavera is going to attract everyone. Like, it's one of the best lineups you're going to get in Europe. If you're not someone that's fond of paying if you're not fond of paying too much money to go to a festival in the UK, especially when Lovebox and other places like Wireless are selling out so quickly, and the resale of the tickets is really high, or the lineup isn't as eclectic or wide-ranging as some Primavera festival is. And I think Primavera is a really good bargain. Like, my flight was like $150, my ticket was $189. The Airbnb collectively we must have paid like $160 each. So you're looking at about £300, just under £400 all in to go to a festival. No including spending money, of course, but to go to a festival, which is a brilliant, because Wireless Festival on the resale, they're already going for about I've seen some for around £300 to £400, right? Lovebox is about 138, 70 something pound a day, not including the amount of money you're going to spend at the bar or whatever you're going to get afterwards. So I think Primavera it has priced itself really well in terms of their festivals around the world, especially when you count in that even though there's 3 main days, or maybe 2 main days if you're really being pedantic about it, you can still go to Primavera Festival for all 5 days. You can go for the whole entire week if you want to. You can do that, which is fucking amazing. and you could get a real bang for your buck. I remember last time we went on Thursday, they had loads of like people that they had loads of people that you might have not heard of, like a George Benson and a couple other playing on Thursday of last year. Thursday's a bit more of a bit more of a quiet day, right? So kind of like a few more like what would you call them? Unknown acts were playing on a Thursday, right? Kind of warm-up acts were playing on Thursday, but it's still a good time to kind of get yourself in the vibe of Primavera, and then you kind of ramp it up by the Friday, by the Saturday, by the Sunday, you kind of wind down, you go back home. But overall, amazing organization. Everything's easy to do. Picking up your wristband is a simple thing to do. I'm going to cut this off later, but yeah, here's my wristband, as you can tell. Primavera Festival, stand up. But yeah, amazing performance. Everyone was amazing. What can I say? What else can I recommend you about Primavera Festival? Yeah, performances. Lorde was the one that surprised me the most, right? Because I'm a big fan of Lorde. I've liked her from her first couple of albums. I've been a big fan of hers in general, but I thought her music was a little bit too, boring for me in that respect, right? But of course, when anyone's performing a live set, they're usually performing their best hits or that span, their whole discography. So she came out there and absolutely blew it out of the water. Her performance was amazing. I loved her outfit, like I mentioned before. She had like this blue kind of tutu dress on, which I'm trying. Let me see if I can get it up maybe on the internet now. I'm gonna type in on Google Lorde Primavera. She was amazing live. I would also, she was amazing live. She performed really well. I think everyone really kind of vibed off her. She had these dancers behind her who were doing this amazing choreography that she was also kind of taking part in, which was great to see. She covered Frank Ocean's song Lost. Lost. Like, that was fucking sick to see. I'm going to play this now on your YouTube. So if you're listening to this on iTunes podcast, then please head over to the link that I'm going to pop in the description of the podcast and click that, and you can check out the podcast. As ever, subscribe to my channel and share it, whatever, turn on notifications, all that standard YouTube shit. But I'm going to play it now on YouTube so you guys can check it out. But Lorde performing at Primavera was banging. So yeah, I'm going to play it for you now. You can overhear Lorde playing right now. Get this up. Fast forward a little bit. Fast forward a little bit now again. Let's see this. Yeah, I love this bit where she was like, where they kind of lifted her up. Look at this. Let me go back a bit as well. This is the best bit of performance I love, where they kind of did this choreography and they kind of lifted her up on stage. It was so sick. So yeah, Lorde was amazing. She performed live too. So like no backing track, just her singing, which was fucking great to see. I know I keep banging on about this, but because because I'm so enthusiastic about this new generation of hip hop acts, right? I think Playboy Carti and people like Lil Uzi Vert are really elevating and maybe expanding the sound of hip hop to a really different audience, and the sound that they're using is just amazing, right? Especially when you come from a traditional sort of like hip hop background, hearing a Playboy Carti or Lil Uzi Vert and the energy that they kind of give to the audience and the vibe and just everything about the melodies and the lyrics they use and the ad-libs. I really want them to kind of take it a step further with their live performances, because at the moment, when you're getting with these guys, is that you're getting them just have a DJ play their MP3 of a song that you've heard already, right? Something that you've heard that you got on your iPod, and they're just like lowering down the vocals or turning down the hi-hats or whatever, or the highs or the mids, and then rapping over it. And I think they're just selling themselves short, and also as an audience member, you're not getting the full live experience. Part of the full live experience is to hear the crackle in someone's voice. You remember the old video of Cassie performing live at some place, right? And everyone was taking the piss of her because she couldn't sing. I like that video, right? Because I was expecting Cassie to sound like her MP3 or to sound like the CD. I wanted to hear all the breaths and all the pantings and all her trying to pace herself throughout performance. That's what makes a live performance great, right? That's what makes live CDs awesome. I remember hearing a live CD of, who is it? It might have been Interpol, right? Where they're kind of berating someone in a crowd who's kind of booing or chucking something. Or no, a guy that's kind of touching up a girl, I think, or something, right? And you overhear the guy saying, "Oh, like, if you do this again, I'm going to beat the fuck out of you," right? And he's kind of whispering to somebody else behind the stage, and he's talking to someone else in the part of the band. And it kind of gives the live album a real feel, a real vibe. You kind of feel like you're there, right? So live performances are kind of meant to be a little bit clumsy, a little bit rough around the edges. But these hip hop acts, I don't know, just be pure laziness and because they just want to bank all the money, right? Because I'm assuming the more production or the more real the performances, the more money you're gonna have to invest in maybe getting a sound engineer, maybe getting a band to come and play with you. But if ever you've watched Jimmy Fallon and you've seen the Roots play a live instrumentation of a version of someone's tune, it's always good, isn't it, right? Or if you've ever watched NPR Tiny Desks, right, that they do performances wise, it's always amazing, even when the song isn't that great, because you get to see the live aspects of it, the person doing it in this rawest, truest form, right, in front of a live audience. And Lord did that at the Primavera Festival, and she was fucking great. I didn't expect that much I didn't expect so much of her, not because I don't think she's talented, but because it's not someone I really paid that much attention to. But Lord was amazing, so I'm definitely gonna keep an eye on her even more than before. And in terms of songwriting, man, she's very, very talented, isn't she? I think very, very underrated as a songwriter. So yeah, Lord was fucking sick. Skepta. If you don't, I'm gonna go a bit over the place. I'm not gonna do it by day because that's, whatever. Skepta was great too. Skepta performed last year. He was one of the main acts that performed last year, but this time round, because Migos cancelled last minute, which was such a bummer. When I was arriving to the Airbnb, my friend had texted me and said basically, and kind of said, you wouldn't guess what, but Migos cancelled, and I don't know why they cancelled. I don't know why it happened. I'm assuming it might have something to do with Offset's car accident, but my friend also let me know that they were performing the couple of days later in some festival in Paris or something like that. So maybe it wasn't that, but I've heard through the grapevine that they're supposed to miss their connecting flight, so they weren't able to come to Barcelona on time. But that was a huge bummer because I thought seeing Migos in a live setting like Primavera would have been great. And a lot of people that were at the festival who weren't necessarily big fans of Migos wanted to see them anyway, because that's the beauty of Primavera, right? You get to see Ariel Pink, you get to see A$AP Rocky, and you get to see Tyler the Creator, and you get to see DJ Cos all in the same venue. So that would have been great to see, but they cancelled last minute, and it kind of follows a bit of a pattern now. And last year was Frank Ocean, this year was Migos. Like every year, since someone from the hip hop R&B community always tends to like kind of, what's that word called? Cancel, which is annoying as fuck. But hey, what can you do? So Skepta was great. He got booked in last minute, supposedly, and he ended up flying over loads of his friends. He flew over Suspect, and they performed the Look Alive remix. He flew over Shorty. Who else came over? I forgot the other person that came over. But yeah, he performed a whole melody of tracks. He performed Pure Water, which was great. Pure Water and Loss of Ice. That was great. He performed a new track that's gonna be out soon as well, which I don't know the name of. He was great. I loved his outfit. He had his main tracksuit on and these new Air Maxes that he put, that collaboration he put out recently. Sorry about the runny nose, but yeah, the hay fever's back again. What else? Oh, Arctic Monkeys, right? Arctic Monkeys were fucking incredible. I'm not sure if you've heard the new album from the Arctic Monkeys, but the new album is great, right? A lot of people aren't really fond of it because it's definitely veers off from what you've heard of them before, right? It's definitely a sonic exploration. It's not something that you've kind of heard before from the Arctic Monkeys, but their live performance at Primavera was out of this fucking world, right? They had the monkeys in neon lights and behind them in the stage, and then on each screen they had like kind of like a really grainy black and white video that was showing. Again, that's a great setup I like, right? So Primavera Festival, it's usually the main stages are really big, but everyone kind of packs them, so you can't get there, right? They're usually sitting there quite early on, and they're kind of waiting for their act to come on. So what they do is a good job of is that similar like Coachella, similar to I'm assuming most big festivals, they have massive screens that show the artists, so you can basically see what they're doing on stage, which was amazing. But imagine seeing the whole festival. I saw different artists do it different ways. Like Licky Lee had like an installation, kind of these eyes curtains on the stage that was sometimes reflected on the screens, and then sometimes it'll be her on the screen. But for the most part, all the videos were in color. So then to see it in black and white, it was just like, aesthetically, it was just amazing to see by your eyes. It's like, shit, everything looks so much cooler in black and white. And it was at nighttime too, so the stage lights were mostly quite dim except for the neon monkey at the back of the stage. And it was really, really low lit. And then whenever they came to like a chorus or like a crescendo of the music, it would light up really, really, really bright. And then the screens would kind of dim down. It was just amazing to see. But Arctic Monkeys, probably, I'm probably not saying anything new here, but they probably might have one of the best discographies and one of the best set lists that you could ever get in the festival. Like, wow. Let me see if I can get a performance up here from them playing at Primavera. I think someone just filmed their own video. I'm not sure they got the live performance up on here yet. Let's see here. Can you hear this? Here we go. Alex Turner's the coolest frontman in the world. Don't tell me nothing else, okay? I don't want to hear it. Alex Turner for life. Let's get this up on the full screen. So that's Arctic Monkeys performing 1 Point Perspective at Primavera Sound Festival. Another thing I realized about Arctic Monkeys too, about Alex Turner, he's very good at keeping his voice in a particular vocal range. He doesn't strain his voice too much. That was amazing to hear live. Like there's a tendency, I don't know, I would think so, right? Just from not being a performer and not having any time on stage and just my kind of silly monkey brain. But there's a part of you that wants to shout or wants to really kind of scream and go for it, right? On the stage, you kind of lose your voice a little bit. Maybe it's the kind of amateurish side of being a performer, right? You don't really have the experience. You haven't had the 10,000 hours of performing in, like, I'd imagine they performed in like various shitty bars and snooker clubs and shit before they became the Arctic Monkeys, right? So, but he's very good at keeping it in a particular range. He never strays from that range. He keeps his voice in, and it's very, very evident when you see him live. It's amazing to hear. Sometimes there's some parts where the music is even louder than his own voice, right? It kind of creeps up, and he's just underneath the top layer of whatever lead guitar he's playing or the drums and shit. It's very, very strange, but live it really, really works, and it kind of lends itself to you singing along to it, right? Which I think was amazing. And yeah, man, like it was probably rammed the same way I saw Black Madonna. It was crazy. We were so far from the stage, it wasn't even funny how far back we were. It was insane, fucking insane. Like there's two stages, right? Where Lord was, I think the Saya and I think maybe Rabe or the Primavera Sound. I don't know what stage it was, right? I think Saya and something else, right? So they're kind of facing each other. And we were probably closer to the other stage than we were to that stage. We were right at the back, so far back, and it was just ram-packed. And even where we were standing, we were kind of like at the back, and then by the time the set started and I looked back, I couldn't see the stage behind me anymore. There were so many people behind me, it was just blocking the whole path, so more people joined in. But in general, Arctic Monkeys probably got the best reception, I think, in the whole festival. I think they appealed to a wide swath of music listeners. I saw people in the crowd, you know, that ranged from, you know, mums and dads to young kids, to people like me. It was a real wide-ranging base of people. So that must have been fully gratifying for Arctic Monkeys and stuff. And just seeing him at that time at night, Alex Turner wearing that amazing white outfit, the fucking black monkeys the neon sign of monkeys at the back, just so sick. I absolutely loved it. So they were great. Who else was amazing? Oh, A$AP Rocky performed. A$AP Rocky was sick. What a stage man. What a performer. What a star, let's say. A$AP Rocky is a star. Like no holds barred. I know a lot of people have a lot of things to say about A$AP Rocky's musical output. He seems to be concentrating a lot more on his fashion than he does on his music. I think Joe Budden mentioned on his podcast the other day, does A$AP Rocky better? Does A$AP Rocky wear clothes better than he makes music, or something along that kind of lines, right? Which is quite, you know, disparaging and rude, but you kind of get the gist of what he's saying, right? He's never, for probably the closest he's got to making a cohesive album is probably Testing, and a lot of people don't really like that either, right? It hasn't been a resounding success with all the critics and fans and shit, but there's parts of Testing that really work. Like you can tell he's slowly getting to the sound that he kind of wants to develop and hone and kind of take on, right? I'd say LSD and the song with Rod Stewart were kind of testament to kind of where he wants to go direction wise, and I'd say Testing has a lot more of those ingredients in that album than any other thing that he's done beforehand, but he just needs to find a way of extrapolating it and kind of maybe quality control. I'm not sure if it's quality control or maybe it's just I don't know what it is, but he needs to be able to put together an album of between, I say, 10 to 12 tracks, 10 to 14 even, right, of just solid album. Because so far sometimes his album kind of drop off the face of the earth after maybe track 6 or track 7, right, after the middle track it kind of gets a bit wobbly. But I understand A$AP Rocky's star appeal, because if you were at the show, right, or at the festival, and you saw A$AP Rocky perform and you saw the reception that he got, especially from the girls, you'd say this guy is definitely a star. There's no way you can lose. Like, I saw a girl next to me when he started performing his set, who started crying, like full on crying and shaking in hysterics. It was insane. Like, I've not seen a reception like that in my life. Like, of someone performing. Every time the camera zoomed on his face and he kept smiling, and he had his bloody diamonds all over his ears and his chains glistening and his kind of diamond on his tooth and shit. Girls were swooning all over the place. I think some of them weren't even listening to what he was saying. They were just staring at him. Girls just like gasping. Like, you know that face that Lionel Richie made when Kanye performed All Day Nigga at the Brit Awards, just like a fish, like a goldfish, just gasping for air. It was sick to see. Like, A$AP Rocky's a star. Like, don't tell me nothing. Go to a live performance of his and look at the girls, how they react to him. It's just amazing to see. And plus, he's got all the other big tracks in his catalog, like LSD, the song with Rod Stewart that got a really big reception. I was surprised how big reception that it got. A$AP Rocky was a great performer. That was really good to see. And another one that was fucking sick was Tyler, the Creator. Tyler, the Creator fucking smashed it at Primavera Sound. He had an amazing stage where the whole backdrop was sort of green screeny, but not really, like a digital screen. So every track it changed. So and there was different kind of ramps and platforms. So he was lying down on one bit during one bit of performance when you're performing Boredom, and it kind of turned into like a green field with like trees and shit. You know how he does his stuff, right? He loves nature, he loves flowers, whatever. And the backdrop changed according to each track, and it was fucking sick. Like it changed so well that the friend I was with actually thought it was part of the stage design, but it wasn't. It was just like he had ramps in different places that made it look like he was lying on a hill when he wasn't, like he was standing on something. He wasn't. Like, it was amazing. Taylor the Creator was fucking sick performance. I enjoyed that. Who else was good? Saw a bit of Ariel Pink. That was great too. He performed really, really well. Saw a bit of Arctic Monkeys. Saw a couple of DJs perform. We saw arm DJing, right, from Innovision. That was great, but I think I mentioned it before a couple of times, but I'm not really a fan of seeing DJs perform at festivals. I just don't think it works. Being someone that's a huge fan of electronic music, being someone who I DJ myself, right? I'm going to be DJing next, actually, at the 24th of June at the Heathcote and Star, a bar in Leytonstone. That's 334 Leytonstone High Road. Check me out at agostinhozinga.com. I'll put up the flyer very, very soon. But someone that DJs and goes out a lot and does the whole clubbing tourism stuff, right? I go to Berlin to go and see certain DJs play at, you know, some of the world's famous festivals, such as Club de Visionnaire, Berghain, and all that stuff, wherever it may be. I think there's something very special about going into a dark room and hearing someone play music for an hour or two, right? There's something very special about that. And I just don't think you can recreate that in a festival environment. I just don't think it works, especially when there's bands and shit playing. Maybe a festival that leans specifically more to DJs, like Sonar, or like other festivals that we have in London. I forgot the names of them, but there's a couple we have in London that are very DJ heavy. Maybe they would work because, like Glastonbury, I'm sure they had that stage in Glastonbury called NYC Down Low, right, where they invite loads of like old school house and disco DJs to come and sort of like recreate the sort of like Hacienda, the Loft, that kind of era of disco and house and all that kind of Larry Devine shit, right? And it works because it's sort of like in a tent. It's kind of like in its own little building. It's not like in an open plan area. And they had this stage at Primavera, I forgot the name of it, where most DJs were playing at next to the beach. That was sort of underneath this sort of like gazebo, sort of like tent. But it was next to a big bar, next to a massive toilet, and it was also room for people to sit down on this kind of floor. And it was really weird to see really big DJs, like Cousins or whatever, banging out absolute smashes on that set, right? Like playing an amazing set, and just a whole group of girls sitting in a circle and just gossiping about what happened last week at work. Like just sitting there right on the floor, right? Talking and doing their own thing. It was just weird. I mean, no one was really like paying attention or being looked in, or there'd be a guy on the side like just nodding away, right? Just sitting down somewhere. But the rave aspect of it didn't really work that well. So it kind of, you felt the time when you were watching a DJ, you felt the time drag a little bit. And also the sound kind of dissipates or like spreads across the kind of area. It doesn't really feel well. Like, it doesn't feel great. I think when a band's playing and the sound sort of like spreads around, you kind of catch a vibe. Like, I remember that's why I knew Ariel Pink was playing, right? Because I heard the music as I was walking through the Primavera Sound festival site, and I was, oh yeah, Ariel Pink's on, isn't it? Bam, run to the stage. But when like you hear like a house track playing and it's kind of spreading across, you just don't. It just sounds like something you'd hear in a shop, right? I don't know. It doesn't really grab you for lack of a better term. Maybe a live set would work better, like Henrik Schwartz or whatever. That one might work a little bit better, you know, like actually editing a track for as they're playing along. Maybe that might work. I know my friends mentioned that Mount Kimby was really good live as a DJ as well. He played a really good set. So maybe that might work. Fortet supposedly was really good, but I missed him. I didn't see him. But for the DJs that I saw at the time that I was there, I didn't really think it worked. I think it worked really well with Black Madonna. But Black Madonna, the stage that she was on, was sort of like, it kind of had people hemmed in. It was a kind of the stage next to, I don't know what the stairs were, but there was a stage that was sort of like where the main stage where DJ Coco played at the end is like the kind of like the end set, and it was kind of like a triangle. So imagine the stage was at the point of the triangle and the crowd was like at the base of the triangle. So you were kind of locked in. It was sort of like a locked in crowd, a locked in arena kind of thing. And then along the side of the triangle, like on that side, that was like, along one of the flat sides, that's where the bar is. So there was nowhere to kind of like get away. it kind of kept the energy all in one place, and it kind of looked. And from where I was sitting at the top of the stairs, it looked really vibey down there, more so than the other stage next to the beach, where everyone was kind of wandering, taking a piss around the corner, chatting to their friends about someone at work they don't like. Do you know what I mean? Eating a hot dog. It was a bit weird to see that happening, but overall, it was a fucking tight festival, and I cannot wait to go back again. Like I mentioned before, I think it's a great idea to go to these kind of things, especially if you have a group of friends that you don't necessarily see that often. I usually see my friends. I see my friends a lot more often than I had done in the past, but mostly because of the festivals, right? Because the festivals kind of give us, it kind of reignites the friendship again, and you end up hanging out more often. But yeah, what a great place to go to with friends. I can't recommend it anymore. Any highly, really. You hear a lot of people speaking English there, but you also hear a lot of Spanish-speaking people that go to Primavera, especially, imagine if you live in Spain, like, it's not that far to probably travel there by car. It's a great city to eat, great city to drink. There's a beach, which is amazing as well. You can kind of hop on the beach in the morning. I know a couple of people in our group went to the beach, but I didn't, of course, because, you know, don't care about beaches. But I know some people did go to the beach, especially in the mornings until the afternoon, and then came back, had a shower, and then headed out to the festival. And in general, just like I said, well organized, a great place to be. Everyone was really cool and chill. There was no dickheads at all. Everyone was having such a good time. Loads of great banter to be had with loads of other different individuals, and just a good time, man. A fucking good time, and I highly recommend it. Primavera gets a fucking 10 out of 10 from me, and I cannot wait to go back next year. So to everyone that kind of put that thing together, to all the organizers, all the artists, all the sponsors, everyone, like, you did an amazing job. The merch too at Primavera was fucking awesome. My friend bought a hoodie that was great, which I kind of regret not getting, but the merch was great, which is, you know, imagine festival merch being any good. Like, it's fucking awesome. Good festival merch. Yeah, great success, and I can't wait to be back there again next year. That was mostly my trip spent in Barcelona and having a great old time in Barcelona. But that being said, fuck Vueling, man. I got a flight from London Gatwick with Vueling. Absolute dog shit airline. The worst airline in the fucking world. Vueling, or Vueling, however you pronounce it, that word, right? Fucking dog shit. Dog shit. I went to Gatwick to get my plane to leave London to go to Barcelona, and for some reason, like, my plane was meant to leave at, I think, 1:40 or something. I'm meant to arrive at Barcelona maybe at 3, and I was going to get to the apartment maybe about 4 or 5, so I would have quickly changed and headed straight back out. I ended up getting to the apartment at 9 o'clock. Why? Because the fucking plane was stationary at the platform for 2 hours. They didn't update us until maybe an hour in, when someone complained, and when they did update us, they told us supposedly it wasn't leaving because the little machine that kind of rolls in all the luggage into the hold was broken. So they had to get a ladder, and they had to get a guy to kind of like physically jump up and chuck in individual bags into the hold, which, you know, which is no easy job, right, for the most part. But then when that was done, because we actually saw it happening, because I was sitting next to the window seat, it still didn't move. But I guess the reason why it didn't move, what we deduced, is because it was really busy that day, and there was other delays. I don't know, with signaling or something happened. So by the time we left 2 hours later, we were in a queue, and there was like 3 or 4 planes that went before us. So obviously, from what we saw, it looked like it wasn't only the Vueling that was delayed. It was all planes were delayed, but they didn't update us. I'm not sure if that's a purpose thing they do on planes because they don't want people to panic, but there was no update. They were just giving individual updates. So if you complain, they'll tell you what happened, but they weren't saying it over the mic. They weren't giving, like, you know, you're on the train and they're like, oh, hey guys, we're going to be at this red light because we're waiting, but we should have a move on in 5 or 10 minutes. Then when the 5 or 10 minutes passes, the driver usually give you another update saying, hey guys, we're still waiting. I'm still waiting for a signal. It kind of just puts you to ease, so you're not twitching around everywhere, right? But unfortunately, for some people who are more agitated than I was, because I wasn't that bothered, right? Because I took a little edible and I was just chilling on a plane. But there was a lady next to me that was getting really pissed off, right? And I was happy about that, because, you know, she was the one that was agitated more than I was, and she was kind of my mouthpiece. So I was thinking all this shit in my head, but because I was too high on the edible, I was just chilling. And she was only getting answers when she complained. Like, there was no other answers coming from the main speaker. The captain wasn't saying anything. It was really frustrating, man. Like, and then we ended up leaving 2 hours later, and it was just a fucking shitty flight. Like, horrible experience. So I definitely don't recommend you going to Vueling. The seats were more comfortable than Ryanair. all in all, I'd say the plane was better than a Ryanair plane, but as an experience to go to A to B, I'm definitely not flying with Vueling and probably never flying out of Gatwick again, because that was an absolute ball ache to get to as well. You know, having to get a rail line from London Bridge, all that shit was just a bit annoying. I much prefer leaving from Stansted, especially living in Stratford. You can just get a coach directly to Stansted. The airport is fairly easy to navigate around, and it's always I've never had a delay leaving from Stansted in my life ever. Even though it's a bit of a hellhole, especially immigration coming out, because Stansted has a lot of airlines flying out from it, and it comes from kind of most of the popular destinations in Europe: Berlin, Madrid, Paris, all those places, blah 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 blah. Copenhagen as well flies up from Stansted, so loads of inbound and outbound flights. So it's not the funnest experience, especially during the peak months of the year. But yeah, Vueling was absolute dog shit. I don't recommend going to Vueling. Like, Vueling was absolute dog shit airline to go on, and just annoying. And you know what also pissed me off? I was on a plane, right? I got on a plane, and because obviously I was kind of one of the last people to get on, I had to put my checked luggage, my hand luggage and my suitcase in different parts. So one had to go the other side, other side of the aisles, right? And some idiot decided to put their bag in front of my backpack. So then when I went to get my headphones later, I kind of forgot where my bag was. And when I kept opening up all the doors, I couldn't find my bag because this idiot packed their bag in front of mine. And I didn't want to be a pain and started ripping up people's bags and shit. So that was a fucking annoying thing. And I kept having to open the doors. And people would look at me like I was a psycho. I was like, opening doors left, right, and center. And I couldn't find my bag. I was like, what, fuck it. I'm not going to listen to my podcast. So I had to just sit on a plane and hear a baby cry and hear a couple kissing in front of me. Just fucking annoying. Luckily, I was a little bit high because of the edible, but I couldn't even have any more because I didn't have any more edibles on me because I didn't have a bag with me. It was in my fucking backpack, which is annoying. So maybe that's the lesson for next time. If I have because I did bring a little side bag with me, a little pouch, a little Places Plus Faces bag. I'm pretty sure that I showed you guys before, but a little sort of like duffel bag thing that I had right with me. So maybe it's a good idea. It's just to kind of have all my kind of stuff that I want on the plane with me, like my headphones, my blinds, my earplugs, any sort of like edibles, whatever on there, any sort of sweets, any sort of drinks inside that little bag, so you don't have to get up a million times, because that sometimes can be a bit annoying, and you just want to keep yourself all in one place, or even a laptop. Sometimes when I get on a plane, if I bring my laptop with me, I usually just kind of quickly pull it out and leave it on the seat, and all the other stuff, and then put my bag up there, and so I don't have to keep getting up all the time to get my bag, or if I do have to get up, just get up to go to the toilet. But yeah, whoever put their bag, don't put your bag in front of someone else's bag. Put it on top of the bag, or squeeze it next to it, but don't put it on top of it, because when I open the lid and I press to see my bag and I can't see it, I'm gonna start thinking, what the fuck's my bag? And I was opening them like a fucking idiot, like click, 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 and obviously everyone on planes just minds their own business, so they're just all like looking at me. Do you know what I mean? I'm like clicking away like a loser. I did it on the way. I did it when I stood up, right? I couldn't find it, and then I kind of like played it off by going to the toilet. Then I came back and tried to just look for it again, and I couldn't find it twice. It was hilarious. It was hilarious, to be honest. I did it twice. I was like, on the way to the toilet, opened it. I was like, oh, you know what? Well, I'm standing up anyway. I'm just going to go to the toilet. And I went to the toilet, came back out. I was like, you know what? I'm determined to find my headphones. Determined to find my backpack. So I opened the doors again. I couldn't find it, and yeah. So I guess I just had to like suck up and say, you know what? Today is not the day where I'm gonna find anything. And I just had to sit down and just, for once in my airplane history, not have any headphones with me, which was fucking annoying. I think it's worse. What's worse? Not having headphones at work that you forget at home, right? At work, you're gonna be there for like 7-8 hours, especially if you're working an office job where you're usually used to listening to music or listening to a podcast, whatever you listen to, or not having it during a flight. What's worse? Not having it, forgetting your headphones at work, forgetting your headphones when you go to work, or forgetting your headphones when you're on an airplane. I don't know. I think they're equally as worse, but they're equally as bad as each other. But hey ho, things happen, right? My nose is always running in. This hay fever is annoying as fuck, man. I've got pills that I have to take as well, but they don't seem to be helping that much. But hey, maybe some breathing exercises or some some Wim Hof might get me back onto an even keel. But it's definitely a sinus thing, because even when I smell it, it's a bit disgusting. And hopefully you all guys aren't eating now, so you don't start throwing up in your own mouths and shit. But hey, we're going to move on. Whilst I was in fucking Barcelona, guess what dropped? The new Kanye album. And it's fucking fire, man. Oh my God, it's fire. So as you know, Kanye West has been in the news for good or for worse. Due to various aspects, you know, his political stances, you know, his mental health issues, you know, when he cancelled that tour abruptly and he ran away because, I don't know, he cancelled the tour abruptly just after Kim got robbed, I think. Was it in Paris, right? Is that the reason why? I'm not sure. Then he kind of went a bit silent. Then, you know, supposedly he got what do you call it? Signed into a mental institute, or he had a bit of a breakdown or a breakthrough, as I like to call it. Then he had his interviews with TMZ, an interview he had with Breakfast Club, and it just kind of went all a bit downhill, right? I'm sorry, with Charmaine the God. And, you know, various things that he said, people didn't like the sound of. And it kind of cast a lot of doubts upon Kanye West's mental state, and also it kind of made people reconsider who they kind of follow, who are their idols, and it kind of made people like kind of maybe go back to the drawing board and kind of understand maybe that, you know, celebrities aren't as perfect as they think they are. They're, you know, they're as fallible as we are as human beings, and it also kind of reignited the debate of whether or not you can separate someone's artistry from what they say as a person, right? And I've long agreed, or I've long thought that you can. There's various artists such as Morrissey from the Smiths who says completely stupid and ridiculous things in interviews, right? He said something quite recently in his interview with on his website. He had an interview on his website where he kind of says, he said something about Hitler being a liberal or something stupid like that, right? He throws out these weird statements. So he's known for just being a bit of a provocateur in that regard, right? So with Morrissey and the Smiths, this is music that kind of shaped my youth, right? It kind of introduced me to skateboarding. It kind of guided me through some emo-ish times during kind of secondary school and sixth form and shit. You know, it was music that's very, very important, and it's very instrumental and played a big role in my life, right? So I'm very capable of separating Morrissey as a guy and the Smiths, right? I'm able to separate even Morrissey as a guy and Morrissey the music himself as a solo artist. It's just, you know, because I know people are fallible, and I know sometimes I'm not gonna like what he says, but I like the music he does. Or kind of similar to what a Joe Rogan podcast, yeah, like you give the platform to people you don't even agree with, just to hear what they're gonna say. Even if by the end of it you're like, you know what, this just confirms I don't like you, or it confirms I don't agree with you. Giving someone a platform is something that I always agree with, or give someone the chance to speak or to say their piece is something I agree with. But I don't agree with the idea of like, if I don't like what you say, I shouldn't converse with you. I shouldn't engage in a conversation with you, right? And you saw a lot of this stuff happening when the Tommy Laurens were coming out and saying their stuff, or the Katie Hopkins people in the UK and stuff like that. People are like, oh, you shouldn't even give her a platform, and I think that's stupid. I think for the most part, people who like the kind of rah-rah nationalistic speech that people like Tommy Lauren and Katie Hopkins promote, they're going to be fans of them regardless of whether or not you give them a platform or not. They're going to find them, and they're going to seek out that kind of dialogue, and they're going to ingest it, and they're going to take part in it, and they're going to just rally behind them. So you restricting their platforms isn't going to do much, right? But the people that don't like them need to understand what that other side is saying. It's good to hear what they're saying, how they think. It's good to hear them speak through their ideas, or to kind of explain their point of view, even if it doesn't make that much sense, even if you can't rationalize it that well. And I think for the most part, even though Kanye West didn't really do a good job of explaining position, he did kind of do a good job of maybe opening people's eyes up to another perspective of Black America, or another view of the Black experience within the Western world, let's say, for the most part, right? I've been surprised by that perspective because, you know, I'm not that familiar with American politics, but having read books by Thomas Sowell and followed a few other people's readings like James Baldwin and stuff by Ta-Nehisi Coates and stuff, I've seen that there's obviously different ideas of what it means to be Black in America, what it means to be Black in the world, what it means to be Black in the UK, right? You can maybe split it down to being a victim and from operating from a victim mentality, and also operating from a victim mentality, being Candace Owens, if you want to, right? To be obviously simplistic, you can say some Black people look at it as I don't know, however many years of oppression has led Black people to a place in the United States, or into, you know, on the world in general, where they feel as if they're always operating from the back of the line, or they're always at a disadvantage, or they're always starting from way back, right? They don't have the resources that other races or other communities have in order to kind of take a real position of power within the hierarchy system, right? That's what you can kind of attribute it to. Or if you're someone that subscribe to Candace Owens' point of view, you can see it as an idea of like, you know, our forefathers and our ancestors fought for our freedom so that we can have the ability to become maybe the next president of the United States, so maybe become a CEO, or to maybe become a lawyer, a venture capital, whatever it may be, right? So the issues that they had in the past aren't necessarily the same issues we have now. And any issue that does arise now, we have to look more in the mirror. So police brutality, if you're Candace Owens, you'll probably say police brutality is something that black people need to take more accountability for themselves, as opposed to pointing the finger. Not all police people are bad. All lives matter. Blah, 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 blah. So Kanye West maybe did a good job of opening up that debate, right? Saying, look, there's a different way of looking at race in America, and it's not always through the lens of being the victim. But of course, because Kanye West, just if you listen to any of his interviews, he's always been a bit of a rambler. He always kind of like makes 7 points in 1 point, right? Sometimes it's not as cohesive as you'd like it to be, but you appreciate the idea that someone as famous, as influential as he is culturally, takes the time to explain through his ideas, to sit down. Sometimes, you know, I'm pretty sure he has hours and hours and hours of interviews, and really, really speak from the heart. That's what people connect with Kanye West for. Yeah, he does those streams of consciousness stuff when he's at his concert that people love and record, where he kind of stands on stage and really kind of opens up his heart and speaks about things that are going on in his everyday life that some people don't even know about. Right? He kind of is really good at being really honest on the biggest stages and really kind of pouring his heart out, which is why a lot of people like him, fans wise. Some people don't like it because they just want to hear the music, but you know, that's why he's got where he's got at the present moment. But the kind of Trump thing kind of put people in a corner. It kind of made people really, really assess whether or not they wanted to be his fan or not, because people hate Trump so much that anyone who aligns themselves with him is automatically an enemy of the state, right? Which I don't necessarily agree with. You know, I think Trump is maybe not the best president that the United States have ever had. He's probably not the best. He probably doesn't have the best command of the English language. He probably isn't that good at uniting people in general, right? He's quite a divisive figure in the things that he says and how he operates and his worldview, his perspective on things, and the kind of way he just conducts himself, and the kind of the White House in general and his cohorts around him who kind of, you know, exasperate the idea that he's always lying by always covering up his mistakes and blah, 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 blah. So for the most part, you can see why he's divisive. You see why people don't like him as a person, but he's such a hot button topic that anyone that kind of says anything good about him automatically becomes an enemy, right? And you automatically have to kind of disown them. And there's been stories of people in the United States who've kind of like not spoken to certain family members because they found out that they voted for Trump, which is really idiotic for the most part of it, right? Because, you know, if you're even a casual observer of politics, you'd know that for the most part, whoever's in that house, whoever's in that White House, or whoever's got that top seat, it doesn't really affect you in the most part. What really affects you are your local elections, right? Your state elections, your city elections. Those are the things that you kind of have to be active in and take an active interest in. But the idea that a president or a prime minister is going to be that influential, is going to impact your life that much, is really, really redundant, and kind of just goes back to the idea that it kind of just reinforces the idea that we're extremely tribal creatures. You just want to kind of rally behind someone just for the sake of it, right? We just want to be team red, team blue, just so we can piss off the other side. So when Donald Trump ran, there was a lot of that kind of sentiment of like, we won, get over it, right? Your girl, your guy didn't win, we won, get over it, deal with it. He's our president, because, you know, the left was saying he's not our president, blah, blah, blah. So it looked as if, from the outside looking in, it looks as if Kanye West has done a lot of things, right? And he's always been able to kind of escaped unscathed, right? By saying, you know, George Bush doesn't care about black people. He got on stage and kind of took away, he kind of got on stage and interrupted American Sweetheart, Taylor Swift's special moment when she was about to accept her award, because he felt as if Beyonce should have won it himself. He publicly chastised Phil Knight. He went after numerous celebrities, blah, blah, blah. He even has beef with his big brother, Jay-Z. So it looks as if like this might be the actual thing that might put a nail in his coffin, right? Because Donald Trump is such a hot button topic that anyone that would wear a MAGA hat, right, who's an influential black hip-hop artist, would automatically be looked at as a snake. But somehow, through his sheer talent and just the way that he kind of orchestrates things, or maybe he's just his cultural influence, he was able to kind of escape from it quite unscathed, right? Because after the whole TMZ thing of 400 years of slavery, or whatever it may be, right, he kind of went back to his bunker and decided to kind of, you know, drop these albums for the month of June, right? Every Friday they're going to drop an album. They dropped one last May. So that was the first album, Pusha T's Daytona. Then it's Kanye West. Then I think it's Nas. No, Kanye West. So it's Pusha T, Kanye, Kid Cudi, and Kanye. Then Nas, then Tiana Taylor. So they're dropping all these albums very, very soon. So you got the idea that, you know, he was in the lab making these beats. So he kind of went back to what he knows best, right? Making clothes, making trainers, and making music. So that kind of put him out of the spotlight, and the kind of conversations raged on. And the people that were against it were adamant that, you know, you shouldn't listen to Kanye West again because, you know, he's clearly shown that he's not about the people. He doesn't care what you think, and he's just out there just for himself. And one person who was very, very against him for the moment was Paul Rosenberg from Hot 97, a radio personality who kind of, you know, talks on the morning show with Ebro and Laura Stiles. I've never been a big fan of Paul Rosenberg. I think Hot 97 in general anyway were quite late to jump on the digital revolution, right? When everything was jumping on YouTube or digital or social media in general, they were very late in getting their kind of foot in that door, or even interviewing up-and-coming SoundCloud artists. I remember when Lil Uzi Vert came on Hot 97 and how condescending Ebro was to him in general, right? He kind of wants to act as like he kind of gave himself the job as the sort of like the guardian, the gatekeeper of hip-hop, right? He kind of calls himself old man Ebro, right? Because a lot of people on Twitter, the young kids are calling him, oh, he's just an old man, you don't get it, right? So he's kind of ran with that idea that he's an old man and kind of made himself the de facto gatekeeper. And so has Paul Rosenberg. He's kind of like known as like a Kendrick nut hugger, right? That's what Lupe Fiasco, I think, refers to him as one time. And he has this idea, he has this kind of rep as being somebody who breaks a lot of underground artists, a kind of like a backpack hip hop fan at the purest. And he's also someone that's also been very SJW-ish, right? A lot of political correctness, a lot of things about, you know, just anything that was in public culture, especially in culture now at the moment. Ebro and Pierre Rosenberg, have been very adamant to kind of position themselves as like the voice of reason within this like crazy world that we live in at the moment, right? And it's been quite annoying for the most part, I think, right? I don't really like it because I think with the internet, you kind of get this leveling of the playing field. You kind of get this idea that anyone can kind of like craft their own lane. They can kind of cultivate their own fan base. They can exist primarily on the internet. And it kind of challenges the idea of what an actual star is, right? Because you've got people like Bonk and stuff who just do silly pranks who have this massive reach. Maybe the music doesn't really match up to it, but this idea that, you know, just get as much eyes on you as possible and then work backwards from that. And obviously, if you're a purist, a hip hop artist, hip hop fan, you don't really want to see that because you're used to people coming up as a slow burn, being the kind of quote unquote weed carrier, maybe getting a good feature here and there, and then slowly but surely building their career up over a long period of time. But a lot of these artists that we're seeing now, especially younger kids, look like they might fizzle out and burn over a number of years. But if you're a fan like me, you don't really care. You want to enjoy it for the moment that it is. But if you're someone that's very invested in the industry, such as Ebro or Paul Rosenberg, you feel it's a kind of a slight on you. It's a bit of a disrespect to the craft itself. And these kids are coming in and sort of like doing a bit of a smash and grab, right? They're coming in, they're getting all the impressions, all the views, all the listens on loads of social platforms and stuff. And then they're kind of cashing out. And then for the most part, they don't give a shit about their forefathers. Case in point, what Lil Xan said about Tupac being boring. So that kind of gives a bit of context behind it. And so when the album dropped, Kanye did an amazing thing where he did an album listening party in Wyoming, the place where the album got recorded, similar to what they did in Hawaii when they recorded My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. But with the Wyoming situation, I like it because it kind of lended itself back to what Kanye was saying in his interview with Charlamagne the God about the idea of time, right? About that being the only luxury, right? How his house in Calabasas is really stripped down, loads of really stark, minimal interior design and architecture in general. The idea that taking walks with your friends and talking and conversating should trump maybe going to expensive places and driving expensive cars and stuff. The fact that he's got a Tesla. This really kind of going back to the idea of being out in nature and connecting again to your roots, your friends, and your family. You kind of saw the connection a lot when you kind of saw the pictures of Wyoming. You saw how sparse the landscape was, the hills, the mountains, the horses, the snow. And then he invited all these different people from the press and influencers down to Wyoming to listen to the album. And then just put speakers out in an empty field with an open fire and just play the album out in its entirety out loud. And it looks amazing, to be honest. Like, you can't look at that video of them kind of together and not kind of smile at yourself. And I've got a video here that I'm going to play for you from DJ Tim Westwood, who kind of was at the listening party. And it looks amazing, to be honest. I'm going to quickly play it for you now. It's about 3 minutes. I'll link it in the description in the podcast. You can check out yourself. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to YouTube and check this video out so you can see all the videos I'm talking about in the description. But now I'm going to play Kanye West Ye Listening Party in Wyoming from DJ Tim Westwood.
Tim Westwood TV. Yo, it's Tim Westwood TV. We've just flown into New York City because tomorrow morning we're going to jump on that private jet to fly to Wyoming, to the ranch of Kanye West for an exclusive listening party of his new album.
Oh, I got dirt on my name, I got white on my beard, I had debt on my books, it's been a shaky ass year. Let me make this clear, so all y'all see, I don't take advice from people less successful than me.
Back on the move again, we're on the private jet to find Ye to hear the album. Let's go.
Yeah, you so I'm out of day. Get that ass busting out the bottom. I'ma lose my money in it. I'ma do a little obligado, get the rubbing on my lap, get the chini out the If I pull up with a Kerry Washington, that's gonna be an enormous scandal. I could have Naomi Campbell, and still might want me a Stormy Daniels. Sometimes you gotta bag the boss up. I call that taking Corey Gambles. Find yourself up in the food court, you might have to enjoy your sample.
Unconditional love, thank you.
Thank you very much, bro.
I'm so excited. Thank you, family.
Hip-hop is the first art form created by free black men, and no black man has taken more advantage of his freedom than Kanye West. I put my hand on the stove to see if I still feel. We're still the kids we used to be.
I put my hands on the stove
To see if I still bleed.
Niggas is savage, niggas is monsters, niggas is pimps, niggas is players. The niggas had daughters, now they precocious. Father forgive me, I'm scared of the karma, cause now I see women as something to nurture, not something to conquer. I hope she like Nicki, I make her a monster. Still love you, make no mistake, girl, still love you. Make no mistake, girl, still love you. Make no mistake, girl, still love you.
Now that was kind of a compilation from Westwood, which was, I thought, put a really good spin on it and kind of give it a really good vibe. You sort of saw the vibe of the actual event itself, and I don't know how you can not watch that and not smile, not be happy, right, and not kind of think, you know what, that was for all the shit that Kanye West has put his fans through, or the public in general, right? Because it kind of is. I remember that skit that from SNL that Donald Glover did, kind of taking a spin on The Quiet Place, where you feel as if like you can't not pay attention to Kanye West, right? You kind of want to mute him. You kind of not want to hear all the shit he's doing because you don't really care for the most part. Like I said before, this shit happened. Like I don't really care that much about it. I'm just in it for the shoes, the clothes, and the music. I don't care what he has to say about societal issues or cultural issues, especially when he hasn't done the necessary research or necessarily thought through his ideas or spoken to different people about things that he's thinking about, or just articulated himself in a way that kind of makes sense. I'm not going to lend too much credence or too much weight to what he has to say in that respect. Not in a rude way, but I'm not going to get that emotional about it if he hasn't really given it that much thought himself, right? He's just kind of like suddenly started speaking about things, hasn't necessarily thought through his position on stuff, especially having been exposed to people in the international dark web such as Jordan Peterson and the Eric Weinsteins and stuff, who really, really sit and meditate. So people like Sam Harris, who really, really sit and meditate on their position and their ideas, and then present it to the world in a really coherent way. When you hear someone like Kanye West speaking about stuff, you're like, you know he doesn't really get what he's talking about. It's just like someone on Twitter saying random shit because they want to get retweets and shit, you know, whatever. You don't really take much credence of it. But there's also people in the hip-hop community, such as Paul Rosenberg, like I mentioned before, who really, really, really got worked up about the whole thing, right? Because they are firmly in that kind of ideological camp where anything to do with Trump is racist, is divisive, is dangerous, and is un-American, right? So this whole flying out press and journalists to Wyoming, for some people, rubbed them up the wrong way. And Paul Rosenberg decided to put this video up where he kind of rants and raves about Kanye West and everyone that went to the listening party in Wyoming. And he kind of gets really offended. He kind of gets really angry about the whole thing. I'll play a little bit of it now, and then we'll kind of speak a little bit about the points that he's made, or the points that he was trying to make, at least. So sorry, Peter Rosenberg. Sorry, I keep calling him Paul. Peter Rosenberg from Hot 97.
Whoop diddy scoop. That's what it feels like. All feels like that. Oh, hello. Good morning from New York City on a Sunday. What's up? What's good? How are you? I know what you're thinking. Come on, Bear. I know what you're thinking. Why weigh in on this right now? Well, I'm weighing in right now just for 5 minutes because I'm noticing now that all of the videos are coming out. I guess maybe they were told to wait a day or something, because now everyone's releasing their videos of their big trip to Wyoming. So I have to just spend a minute, because it seems like if I don't, I end up being misconstrued on Twitter with just like writing. So let me make it very clear. Let me explain. I do not expect, nor would I want anyone. Why is my head so bright? That's what bothers me. I would not expect or want anyone to not love Kanye's music. See what someone just said? It's not that big a deal, for real. It's not that big a deal. That's the plan. For you to think nothing's a big deal, right? For you to think the things that are being said in the culture we live in right now are not a big deal. Oh, maybe you think what Roseanne said's not that big a deal. Maybe you think white supremacy's not that big a deal. All of it's not that big a deal, right? And apparently it's not that big a deal because people were upset, and then they got an invitation to go to Wyoming. Oh my God, on a private jet. And do you know how smart Kanye and company are? They did it for like every small market radio station that never gets a chance to go to stuff like that. Not to go.
Now, I don't know. I've never kind of operated on that kind of. I've never really operated in this. I've never operated in a way where I expect everyone that I like to kind of have the same worldview that I do, right? I kind of think that's part of. I kind of think it's a little bit, I wouldn't say naive, but it's a little bit silly to expect people that you follow or people that you look up to have the same worldview as you do, if for the most part your friends and your family don't even share the same worldview that you do, right? My mum and my dad think the world is constructed in a far different way than I do, right? They believe in witches and ghosts. They believe that people can put a spell on you and it can fuck up your life. They believe that if you kill yourself, you go to hell, right? My parents believe some shit that I don't necessarily prescribe to. But I don't get all my pants in a twist about it, because I know for the most part they come from a certain generation. They've grown up in a certain culture. They prescribe to a certain religious belief. That kind of puts a framework behind what they should think or how they can think, right? They believe gay marriage isn't right. They believe some weird shit, or some shit that isn't necessarily what people in the culture nowadays would deem as acceptable. But to expect people that you don't even know, right, to have the same idea, to have the same ideological outlook as you do, or to even prescribe to the same philosophy as you do, is very, very, very naive. And I think for the most part, it does show a naivete, because it shows that even though Kanye West has always been very crazy and always been very outspoken in what he says, it seems like when he was crazy and saying things that everyone agreed with, he was the people's champ, right? Then as soon as he diverted from the group narrative, he then becomes the enemy of the state. But he's still speaking in the same manner he has before. Maybe it's a bit more manic. Maybe there's more context to it because we now understand that he might have some mental health issues. That might explain some of his outbursts and stuff like that. But you can't say to me that you didn't think someone as great as he is, who operates on such a high level of talent, such a high level of taste, wasn't skirting the line of having a mental breakdown. Right? It's just part of the process, right? We've seen it with Justin Bieber recently, right? When he suddenly stopped the tour and then gave his life to Christ and kind of like sort of took a sabbatical from making music, right? Or from performing in general. We saw people that operate on that kind of high level. We saw it Michael Jackson. He kind of had a breakdown. Prince had a breakdown. We see people who operate on the real high level of artistic expression. Jean-Michel Basquiat, we lost a great artist in him. They have a tendency to kind of skirt on that line, right, between sanity and insanity. So with someone like Kanye West, who's obviously quite outspoken, he suddenly wanted to get himself involved in this cultural zeitgeist or this cultural moment where everyone's sort of woken up and become very political minded, right? Because for the most part, Hot 97 wasn't that kind of station. You know, they were sort of like a bastion for like real hip hop, quote unquote. And now suddenly they've kind of set themselves into a political discussion because Obama's not in the White House, and the complete opposite of Obama's now in the White House, right? In someone like Donald Trump, who in their opinion represents white supremacy, who's also a racist. They have all these labels that they've put onto him, right? Especially because most of the reason why, because of the ambiguous nature of the way he speaks, or the kind of like fluffy nature, or the kind of vague nature of how he says, where you can kind of interpret his message in different ways. And also for the most part, because the Republican Party has always been viewed as being ultra conservative and very nationalistic, and you know, that goes against everything that hip hop kind of stands for in its purest sense, in the purest form. But it's really disparate. It's really annoying that Pierre Rosenberg will get this annoyed about it, especially when I think he's made his point clear that he won't listen to Kanye West anymore, right? Because he loves Donald Trump. But then to kick everyone else down who kind of did go to the listening party, who, you know, even if they are from a small station, or even if they were excited about it, that's a bit rude, I think. You know, for the most part, it's like, I get that you don't want to go. He said he was invited and he chose not to go because he has morals or whatever. That's his way of saying he has morals. But I don't necessarily agree with that either. Like, you know, like if you don't like someone or what they have to say, why don't you go to sit down with them and have a speak, like have a talk? Like, I didn't really think it was a good idea that Jay-Z told Meek Mill not to meet with Donald Trump. Maybe not to meet with Donald Trump so it doesn't become a photo opportunity, right? So he doesn't use him as a prop. Show that he has black fans too, right? In that respect, maybe. But if Meek Mill is very serious about his prison reform stuff, and the person in power at the moment happens to be Donald Trump, you're gonna have to eventually sit down with him or someone that represents his constituency, one way or the other. And to kind of not do it because you feel as if like he doesn't represent you as us as a community, or black people as a community, or he's not someone that's in vogue at the moment. I think that's really silly and very, very, very short-sighted. And the idea that free speech should just be limited to people that you want to hear is also ridiculous too. Like, even though Donald Trump can be toxic or can be a bad influence, I think you should engage with his ideas, because the more you talk and the more he engages in his ideas, the more you realize that he doesn't really have that much to stand on. You know, he's quite empty, and his supporters are quite empty too in what they have to say. You only have to watch the interview with Candace Owens, who says she loves Donald Trump and thinks he's the greatest president ever, to hear that most of his fans, people, even like someone like Candace Owens, there's not much more behind being a fan of Donald Trump as opposed to just it rubbing up people the wrong way. They're much more, they're happier to just rub people up the wrong way and get Peter Rosenberg to go outside of his house on Sunday morning and walk around in circles talking about how he's not going to listen to the Kanye West album, right? That makes them happy that they got the left so angry like that, as opposed to the policies that Trump is going to apply, right? They don't really speak about stuff apart from the war and apart from bringing back jobs. There's no real detailed policies that they're kind of getting in behind that they say Obama didn't do, for the most part, right? It's all just a tribalism thing. Like they have their person in the White House or in the hot seat, and that's all they want. But I think for this certain situation, Kanye West has said a lot of silly stuff. But when it comes to the music, I think he's proven with this Ye album, he's incredibly talented. Like there is a reason why he garners this level of attention, because he is a very, very special talent. And to kind of to kind of deny yourself the opportunity to listen to this album in a setting like Wyoming, surrounded by people who I'm sure in the crowd didn't agree with what he had to say, right? If you listen to the album, you hear, especially the track "Wouldn't Leave," you hear Kanye mention that, you know, he thought Kim Kardashian was going to leave him after he supported Trump quite publicly. There's a line here that says of Kim Kardashian calling him in hysterics, crying that he's going to fuck up their entire livelihood by subscribing himself to the Trump ideology. And she had reason to be that worried, because you see what happened to Roseanne. You know, she said something racist, but for the most part, if you say anything crazy in this world nowadays, Kanye's been very fortunate that you kind of do get deleted, right? You kind of do get ended. Like they kind of drag you on social media, and that is it. It just stops for you, right? But for the most part, nothing's really slowed down for Kanye. A couple people on social media burn their Yeezys to get, you know, retweets and likes and impressions, but for the most part, his shoes will continue to sell out. If he announces a tour, it will sell out in seconds. He dropped an album. Every track on the album is on the top 10 of whatever list you see. I think it was on iTunes. It was on the top 10 list. Every track was on the list, right? I think it was back to back, right? So it's like he's been very fortunate in that respect, that he's that culturally relevant that whatever he does do, even if it goes against what the majority of the public are thinking, people still love to hear what he has to say. But I think if you're someone that's against what he stands for, you still need to, I think, being open to being in that room or having a conversation or whatever maybe is really good. But there's also an idea that maybe what you have to say isn't really that, you're not going to change his mind. He has decided this is what he wants to stand for, right? Love. He wants to open his arms to people even that he doesn't agree with politically. He wants to go against the groupthink of being a victim if you're a black person, and thinking as if, like, you know, racism is something that was 400 years of racism, you know, it's a psychological thing. We're enslaved in our minds, blah, 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 blah. He's firmly put his flag in that camp, right? So if that's his flag in that camp, then I think it does you a disservice of being a Kanye West fan to suddenly say now you don't want to be a fan of his anymore and deny yourself of listening to great music, because the music is fucking awesome. And if anything, it just shows a heightened sense of worth that belies any sort of real talent. Like for all the great Peter Rosenberg has done, introducing people to a bevy of new artists, you are just a radio personality, right? You've not really contributed as much as you think you have to the hip hop community. If you were to stop DJing right now or contribute to hip hop, the world will continue without any sort of blip or delay, right? If Kanye West was to stop making music now, there'll be petitions all around the world, people striking, people protesting in the streets to have him make music again. Look what happened when he decided he wanted to make fashion and he was deciding to concentrate his idea on developing his Yeezy line. People are really getting annoyed that he wasn't making music anymore. Like, people really want to hear his voice in music, and I think to suggest that, you know, anyone else that went to the thing was, I don't know, sucking up and you are somehow a moral soldier. This is virtue signaling at its finest, I think, for Peter Rosenberg. Like, you're not that important, my friend. Like, I like the guy. I think he does have some good opinions on music in general, and I think he can be a great advocate for quote unquote real hip hop, and he can be someone that can be a good sounding board or a good filter for you to find some artists who maybe might have more substance and stuff that you might hear at the moment, which is again subjective. And if he wanted to, and he was a bit more humble in his opinion of himself and of the scene in general, I think he'd be a very important fixture within the industry in general. But at the moment, him, Ebro, and a few others just sound like disgruntled old men who can't understand why the kids like what they like, right? Like, Ebro is refusing to give 6ix9ine the platform because he thinks he promotes nonsense, which is, again, hypocrisy at its finest. Then you have someone like Peter Rosenberg, who honestly thinks that everyone should delete or not listen to Kanye West because he supports Trump. I think that's the height of ignorance, really, for the most part. Especially when the album's so good too. You're missing out on such a good album. And yeah, so this is a video that he kind of rants about. It's sort of the same sort of vein, right? He kind of gets really angsty towards the end, and sort of like, I think some of the kids that he's speaking to on Instagram Live start pillorying in him, and he starts saying, "Oh, you haven't lived a life, you haven't done anything. So why should I listen to you?" Actually, let me forward it, and you can maybe listen to it yourself. It's funny to hear a grown man. Imagine being a grown man and doing this out in public. It's like, hard, man.
New York City.
I'm the longest tenured morning show host in Hot 97 history. No one has lasted on mornings in hip-hop as long as me, ever, in the history of the genre. I do...
Imagine being that boastful about having a job. At the end of the day, he's being employed, right? This is what I hated about people who had jobs in cool places, especially when I used to work at Nike in 1948, right? There's few people like, for the most part, let me preface that by saying that I probably didn't do myself any favors, right? My conduct wasn't probably conducive to that sort of environment, right? I didn't tip my hat, I didn't kiss the ring, I didn't make myself available to certain people. I didn't put myself in the rooms that would allow me to kind of progress in that sort of corporate environment, right? But there was this idea that just because you had a job in a cool place or in a place that was a permanent fixture of the culture, that somehow that was something to be lauded and praised. In the end of the day, it's just a job. And if you look at it really, the culture itself does encourage you to kind of carve your own lane, to kind of make your own thing, right? So that you don't have to work ever again, right? You kind of do your own thing. You don't work for someone. You work for someone to kind of get the chops, to kind of get the experience, and then you kind of make your own path. You start your own radio show. You have your own podcast. You have your own online streaming service. You have your own digital agency, whatever it may be. You kind of get that experience from a big corporate and you kind of apply it to your own self, so that if the culture does change or suddenly Hot 97 becomes another shit station that kind of just dies, that you can still have a job. But Peter Rosenberg is so stuck in his kind of old way of thinking that the idea that he has a job that he has lasted so long hasn't got fired is something to be lauded and praised. And it kind of lends itself back to the idea that what Dame Dash was talking about when he kind of was ranting and raving at the Breakfast Club, right? And he was kind of arguing that, you know, he obviously didn't do it in a probably the best way, but kind of when him and DJ Envy were going back to back, that, you know, look, you wake up every day and do this morning show, right? You wake up at 4 a.m. to do a morning show from 6 to 12, wherever it may be. And you've been in the industry for so long and you're respected, but you don't have nothing to show for it. You can't necessarily give this to your children. You can't say, hey, you can play your own show, right? It's a job at the end of the day you've got. So if the investment falls through or if the holding company goes bankrupt, they're all out of a job, no matter how big they are. Charlemagne, Angeli, DJ Envy, all these people, they're all out of a job, right? If that thing kind of falls out of his bottom. But for the most part, some of these SoundCloud rappers who they kind of criticize have kind of put their future in their own hands, right? They promote and market their own shows, they design their own merch, they stream all their stuff online, and they've kind of created their own little ecosystem that doesn't really rely on radio spins at all. And that was how most artists survived. So he's kind of living in a very antiquated or very old way of thinking, where somehow having a job and somehow being involved in a really big station gives you the authority and the right to tell people how they should conduct themselves or what they should appreciate or what they should listen to, which is what gatekeepers should be, right? But we're living in the ages where there are no gatekeepers. The gatekeepers are us. We're the gatekeepers, the customers, the consumers. We're the ones who decide whether or not someone's good or not, right? Look what happened to XXXTentacion. His music got removed from Spotify because Spotify had a new policy where they wanted to make Spotify a safe place and not promote artists who had questionable backgrounds or had allegations around them, right? So they kind of took off XXXTentacion from the featured playlist. Still, if the music was still available, it wasn't being promoted on their sort of playlists, such as Rap Caviar and all that sort of stuff. And then the kind of reaction from the fans made sure that Spotify kind of reversed their decision, and now his songs are back on the playlist again. So it goes to show that even though this in the past that would have happened through radio personalities, industry heads, right, would have kind of made the calls behind the scene and got X's music back on the playlist. But the fans in general are the ones that maybe gave Spotify an onslaught of emails and social media hits and stuff, and it kind of made Spotify look really bad because it put me in a position where as you saw with the response to XXXTentacion, where he I think his team replied back saying, okay, cool to remove my music, but how about all these other artists, right? And they put in a position where if they decided to do it for X, they had to do it for everyone. And there were so many people on that list that it kind of devoided it. So it kind of basically put people in a position of saying that we have to accept that artists, much like people, are gonna do fucked up shit. And if you're a fan of music, you're gonna be listening to somebody who has done some fucked up shit or who has been around some fucked up shit. So you have to reconcile with yourself and understand you have to separate the artist and the person. You just have to. Or the music and the person. You just have to do it, because every artist has done something that you necessarily might not 100% agree with. And if you operate from a framework of, oh, I don't support artists who beat women, then you're not going to listen to anyone, because there might be someone in the list of you listen to who has done something along those kind of lines. Reprehensible as it is, it happens in real life too. And to suggest that you suddenly have this moral grounding that allows you to kind of delete people because they do stuff you don't agree with is stupid, because I'm sure you have people in your own family who have done some fucked up shit. I have members of my family who done some fucked up shit, but I don't not talk to them because of it. You know, it's just, that's your uncle who does fucked up shit. And you just have to kind of get on with it. Like, I'm always prescribed to the idea of operating in the world as it is today and then trying to change it for the better, as opposed to trying to change the world to fit my idea of how the world should be. And I think that's the problem that a lot of social justice warrior people like Peter Rosenberg have, right? They're at loggerheads with what the world is and what they want it to be. And you're at a situation where you kind of want Kanye West to be this bastion of social justice warriorism, right? Especially after you hear him say Joe Budden doesn't care about black people. You don't expect him then, however many years later, to be like, I love Donald Trump, he's my boy, you know, wearing a MAGA hat sign. You know, you don't expect that. That's not what you expect. But unfortunately, your heroes will do stuff that you don't like. So that's why people say don't meet your heroes, right? Because sometimes meeting your heroes in person necessarily doesn't, the idea you've built up in your head isn't necessarily what you're going to find out in real life. Like, I learned that mistake by when I bumped into Skepta one time and he was obscenely rude to me, right? But I understood why. Like, I got it, why he was rude to me, because just, you know, maybe it's just how he is, maybe it was a bad day, but he was just a bit of a dick. But I'm not going to stop listening to his music, because I knew from the beginning that you shouldn't meet your heroes. And they're going to do fucked up shit, but I can't necessarily delete him because of one interaction. How about if he had a bad day that day? Or how about if I just approached him the wrong way? Whatever it may be, there might be a reason to it, but we have to get to a point of, we have to get to that place where you have to separate the art from the artist, because if not, you're going to be missing out on so much good shit out there. And in general, no one's going to listen to you when you're like shouting and raving about someone that they don't think the way you, especially someone like Kanye West, who's kind of always done stuff that people don't think he should do, right? And succeeded. So in his head, the more people are saying that he shouldn't be supporting Donald Trump, the more it's going to reaffirm the idea that he should support Donald Trump, right? It's just because it goes back to the same idea of him not being able to do fashion, not being able to be a producer and a rapper. Like, he's just going to be able to say, look, I proved you wrong consistently, time and time after again, right? He made a shoe that eventually has jumped over the Jumpman, right? Usually has jumped over the Jumpman. He's going to be doing, I don't know, $1 billion in sales, whatever. He's proved himself and the public wrong again and again and again. Or put himself right and the public wrong. So why wouldn't he do the same thing with Trump, especially when people like Rosenberg are in the street shouting at him like this? But let's carry on playing a bit what Peter Rosenberg said, and then we can just go on to the music, because that's the most important thing.
Do not get glamored by a free trip, you groupies. Stop it. If you're going to go out there, at least go out there and be critical. At least go out there and say, I'm going out there, but I'm going to ask the hard questions.
What's this thing with hard questions, dude? Are people that naive that they think Kanye West has people around him who are just lapdogs and just say and just agree with everything he says? Kanye West has obviously, he's shown it in the album. He says already that Kim Kardashian called him in hysterics and was crying and saying to him to stop doing what he was doing, or to stop going out there ranting and raving about Trump, because she was afraid that he was gonna wreck their livelihood and it's gonna stop all their deals and all that shit, right? It's gonna cancel them in general from culture. If Kim Kardashian can't make Kanye West shut the fuck up, what makes you think that you can go to Wyoming and change his mind? I don't understand this. It's such an inflated sense of self, right? You think somehow you can have the sense, right? Yeah, that's people. A lot of people saying, oh, he doesn't have enough black women around him to slap him upside the head and slap some sense to him. It's like, it's so disparaging, man. This idea that somehow he needs black women to kind of set him straight. Like, what? What is this? Like, this whole group identity ideology as well is what's kind of set us back a million. Like, it's like, this isn't the way we should battle ideas, right? You should battle them in the public space. But you should also be aware that maybe some people just believe what they believe, regardless of what you say. Like, social media is probably a good example of that. There's people on social media who speak a lot of sense, who also say stuff to you. And if you don't listen to that, you're not listening to your friends and family who might oppose things that you're saying, how much more for some random radio personality who's already got their own agenda and who kind of wants to be the person who set Kanye West straight? Like, nah, man. Like, allow it. Like, you're not that. Your voice ain't that important for the most part, right? Like, that is an inflated sense of ego, if there ever was one.
Or I'm gonna say I'm here, but I'm reluctant. No, you're just out there partying. Come on, fam.
What's wrong with partying?
Care about this? You know how many years, you know how many Sundays I've done this radio show and actually cared? You don't care. You're frauds. You're frauds. And then
you don't care because you go to a listening party and you don't care about what Kanye West says. That is weird. So I don't care what he says about politics, but I like his music, I like his shoes, and I like his clothes. And if you don't care about what he says politically and it doesn't influence what you buy and listen to, suddenly you don't care.
You 16-year-olds on Twitter who complain, y'all don't know shit. You don't know anything. Your sound...
And that is the problem that he has at the moment. I get Peter Rosenberg's point of view. I get his frustration, right? I understand it. But he is doing what a lot of people, what Joe Rogan would say when they told Joe Rogan was telling his friends not to read the comments, right? This is the reason why, because most of the comments are coming from your most least informed fans, right? They're coming from the most, let's say, for lack of a better term, they're coming from the most ignorant bunch, the ignorant portion of your fans. But because they're so visceral and they're so loud and they're so bombastic with what they say, it sounds like everyone's saying it. So Peter Rosenberg now is shouting and ranting and raving and getting upset about what 16-year-old kids are saying on his social media stream. Right, that's what's making him get angry, because they don't care. They're saying to him he's an old man, get over it, just listen to the music, have a vibe, whatever it may be, right? That's what's getting him upset. That is the problem that he has, because you're directing all your vitriol to a very small margin of people who kind of don't care either way. You know, they're kind of like, they're basically musical hype beasts, which isn't who you should be addressing your ear at. You shouldn't be addressing your outrage at those kind of people. You shouldn't be addressing your outrage at people who remain silent, when Kanye West says something weird, but then there's someone else says something weird politically who's not that influential, they're all out there ranting and raving. Maybe that's who you should direct your anger at, those kind of people. But if you refuse to comment on what he says, Kanye West, or if you refuse to comment on any artist, or you just have a stance where I don't get involved in anything that artists do personally, then why shouldn't you be allowed to go to a listening party and enjoy yourself? Yeah? Why shouldn't you accept a free flight and meet some new people, or share in this communal experience? It looked like a good time. It looked quite fun to me. I don't know. It looked quite fun. That after the whole dust has settled, and everyone's like, let's get back to the music. After everything Kanye West says, and he delivered in the music, why not enjoy yourself? And that's the issue that he has for the most part. That's why you shouldn't read your comments, or you shouldn't respond to comments like that, because you're only speaking to a real fringe. Or in general, you should just have a worldview that allows you to be in a room with people who don't agree with what you say. It's like, what are you speaking? Like, it's a weird way to kind of go about things, especially as a grown adult, especially as a man who's been in the industry for so long, as he says, 15 years, and like not sacked, blah blah blah. He should have a lot more. He should have a lot more. He should have a lot more dirt on his shoe. He should know that this is how it goes. Like, people generally don't care what artists have to say outside, especially if they're making good music. It shouldn't really affect you. Like, we all thought Chris Brown was gonna end his career after he beat up Rihanna, but not really. There's some radio stations who still don't play his music, but for the most part, that happens. As sad as it was, and as hurtful those images were to see, happens every day. Like, this happens all the time. And just to have this idea that your artist should be perfect human beings who can't make mistakes, who can't fuck up, and then for you to suddenly decide that just because they fucked up, you're not going to listen to their music, that's ridiculous, because you wouldn't start speaking to your friend that cheated on their wife, would you? But suddenly, if Tristan Thompson does it to Khloe Kardashian, everyone's like up in arms. Like, you've got friends who cheat on their girlfriends all the time, and you're friends with them. Like, let's relax. Let's get off our moral high horse. Let's stop virtue signaling and just address it for what it is. He might not like what he has to say, but let's talk about that and then just move on. But to keep ranting and raving about it, to suddenly get angry at people who went to Wyoming, and to be upset that no one thinks the way you do, and that these kids don't care about the music because they listen to SoundCloud, and because they're out here making millions and millions of money, and they're just they've been propelled from no one to someone in a matter of a year or whatever, and it's really kind of pissing you off. That's just the way things are at the moment. Like, you have to always operate in the world as it is now, instead of trying to change it into the image that you want it to be. Carve your own lane, and kind of, if he wants to become this backpack underground about substance kind of hip-hop commentator, then just stick to that. He's got his show in Complex, so why not just promote those kind of people on your show? But he hasn't. I think I saw a video of him talking to Bad Barbie on his show. which probably doesn't make any sense, right, for anything he's saying now, because, you know, she doesn't, you know, I'm not sure how much substance she has to say about anything, right? And she maybe kind of does promote maybe the bad side of hip hop, or the side that he probably doesn't agree with altogether. So why not use your own platform to promote the things that you like, right? Instead of chastising people for liking something that you don't necessarily like, or chastising people for liking a guy who says something that you don't really agree with. It's just a very strange way to do it. But let's just hear a little bit more about it, and then we'll go into the music, because, you know, this is kind of giving me a bit of a headache.
Cloud fanboys. You don't know anything about the culture. You've never actually had anything happen to you in this culture. Do you know how many times I've been tested? You know how many issues I've had with artists? You know how many times... You see me walking right now down the streets of New York by myself? I have my entire career. Y'all aren't really in this. You're frauds. You don't have anything, any real attachment to it. So it doesn't matter to you. You sound like a salty hater. What would I be hating on? What would I be hating on?
I don't know. I think that might be it. But, you know, imagine being a grown man and being this upset about stuff like this. It's like, it's very strange, man. It's very, very strange. And it maybe just goes to show how insular his worldview or his environment is, for the most part, right? That it just shows, maybe he does only have friends who only listen to the stuff that, or only agree with everything he agrees with. But, you know, c'est la vie. But in general, anyway, the album's fucking amazing. I bloody love the album. I think it's sick. And yeah, Kanye did a great job, man. He did a fucking great job. The album's called Yay. The album cover's great. He took it, just before the listening party, right? I love the little Yay generator they made. The merch looks amazing. My favorite track probably in the album, looking at the playlist now, is probably the second half of I Thought About Killing You, which is fucking sick. I like Wouldn't Leave, and obviously Ghost Town and Violent Crimes are amazing. 07 Shake probably is, of course, a standout star in this mixtape, especially from the back of what the little chorus that she did on Santeria, and then from the stuff that she did now. Like, they're definitely going to prop her up to be the next superstar. It was a bit sad to see Designer at the listening party, right? Kind of his career sort of like fizzled out a little bit since Panda dropped. Big Sean was there too, who hasn't necessarily been able to put together a solid project ever since he's been on Good Music, really, for the most part. He's really succeeded in making, he's had some legendary verses, but his own music has been a little bit lackluster for the most part, so it's quite sad to see those kind of guys around that kind of energy and not having their own album lined up for the June drops. But I'm really looking forward to seeing how this album performs. For the most part, the reviews have been very, very glowing. I've listened to a few reviews on YouTube, especially these guys who were smashing, what are they called, these reviewers? Complex Ambition, right? These guys did an amazing review of the album, which I think you should definitely check out. I'll link that as well on the show notes. And yeah, I love the album, man. Kanye West's album absolutely fucking smashed it. And sonically, it's just, I think, as bad as it was, as bad as that whole album rollout was for him personally, right? And his family and his friends, him putting himself out there front and center and being like the kind of like, you know, the quote unquote Donald Trump fanboy. I think all that adversity really lends itself to him making a great album, because he has something to kind of rally against. Because I'm not sure what he would have spoke about. Because I remember, I think Charlamagne and a couple of people, like Big Boy, from Big Boy's Neighborhood, the station in LA, the Power 106 station, he said something like he heard a different album than the album that he heard today, right? So, and then kind of confirmed it by saying that after the whole TMZ thing, he went back to the drawing board and redid his complete album from back to front. So I think the album probably is better for the adversity because he has something to rally against. I'm not sure how good it would have been beforehand, because he had a not an enemy, but he had something to kind of anchor himself to, right? The idea that he's supporting someone that no one likes, this idea of groupthink, the idea of disappointing his wife, the idea of having a daughter, and all this sort of shit. Kind of, you know, he has something to anchor on to kind of make his music with, and I think it really lends itself to a great project overall. I thought the rollout was amazing. The listening party thing, flying everyone to Wyoming, was fucking sick too. The idea of dropping every album on a Friday is a great idea. He's producing all the tracks, 7 tracks only, which is super cool too. A very short and concise album, similar in the vein to like Yeezus, that was 10 tracks only. I just love it. I love it all. I think Kanye West has probably shown, or I think the guys on the channel Complex Ambition mentioned it as well, that they're like, whew, like he did a good job, right? Because everyone's kind of nervous that he might fuck up, but he didn't. He showed that, oh, okay, he might not agree with what he says, but there's no denying that he is an exceptional talent when it comes to making clothes, making shoes, and making music. That is what he's really, really, really special at doing. And there are moments where he can be a bit of a cultural provocateur, or he can kind of light the match in terms of political conversation and shit. But for the most part, where he really kind of separates himself from the pack is the music, and the music is just insanely good, man. Insanely good, and I can't wait. I'm hoping to God that there's a tour. I really hope there's a tour. I really hope there's a tour. I really hope there's a tour behind this, because if there isn't, that would even be a shame. But I really hope I can see this album perform live, because I've never seen Kanye West perform live actually, so that'll be a good chance to see him live. Anyway, that's it for the Kanye. What else I need to speak about now? I think that might be it, you know, maybe. Oh, Steven Tyler on JRE. Did you guys see Steven Tyler from Aerosmith on Joe Rogan podcast? If not, please watch that. The Last of the Living Rock Stars, Steven Tyler on JRE, was an amazing podcast to listen to. Everyone always says that they're a rock star, especially in hip hop, right? Everyone's like, I'm a rock star. But Steven Tyler's a real rock star for real. His brain's probably fried to fuck after all the drugs he's done. But to hear someone to listen and watch someone so eccentric and has so many weird experiences and his stories and he's ranting and rambling. But the first part is the bit that you really need to listen to. He kind of like writ out his day. I think the last couple of days what he done basically, right? At his age 70, his schedule is fucking insane. So for all you out there who are like, I don't have enough time, I can't do this, I can't do that, listen to fucking Steven Tyler on JRE talk about his schedule, right? About the things that he's doing. Hopefully if I can get it up here now actually, so you guys can see it. It was amazing. Really good podcast to check out. Sued Party, Text on Music, Writing Emotion, Spotify and Play, American Idol on Sobriety, and Roseanne on his unique singing style, Act as a Fake People, Vibe and Energy. Let me try to get. I think it's at the beginning of the podcast. He talks about his schedule. I'm sure someone's got a clip of it. Let me see if I can kind of get it up here before I close this podcast out. Come on.
Said one thing. No, open my fan mail.
Oh, okay.
Let's see.
I just remember shit that smart people have already figured out.
But you accumulate situations. You know, it's like Jimi Hendrix said, you experience.
Yeah.
Private gig with David Foster.
Okay, here we go. So he kind of details his whole schedule, right? Yeah. Let's see it.
Down.
Let's see. 1 second. Let me get to the start.
And that happened in the last 2 weeks.
Here you go.
To Amy, what have we been doing in the last? Where have we been?
Right.
So I wrote it down. Drove to San Diego after Venice. Did a private show. Flew to Orlando that night.
Right.
Okay. Private gig with David Foster, Katy Perry, Pia from Idol. This girl was so sweet. Rehearsed with the band. And during the break from the band, I was in Disney World. I rode my roller coaster.
I just got back from Disney World and I rode your roller coaster yesterday.
Okay, so you know you've made it when, right? See what I mean?
The day before yesterday.
So I'm going through this list and I went, wait a minute, we what? And it was just, so rode the roller coaster. Then I ran over the rock and roller coaster.
It's great,
right? 2 times it goes up like that.
And then it goes backwards.
Yeah, 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds.
It's pretty dope.
Yeah, sick. Electromagnetic propulsion, dude. What are we doing here?
What are we doing here?
So then I went over to the Animal Kingdom to visit some of my old girlfriends. No, I went to
Did you do the Avatar ride?
Holy
shit!
I fucking love
Holy
Avatar.
shit! Is that Avatar ride intense? The one when you get on the bike?
Yeah.
And you're flying on the dragon.
Yeah.
The virtual reality. That's the greatest ride of all time.
The greatest.
I think it's called Flights of Passage. I think that's what it's called.
It might be. It's like the Naave. I went to, just to break here for a second, I went to Betty Ford 8 years ago because I got fucked up with my foot stuff and just stuff.
With your foot stuff?
I had an operation on my foot, and I kept the meds right by the bed, you know what I'm saying?
Hold on, let me fast forward a little bit more.
8 times.
Did you get button support?
Not the guy after the show. Come out soon. Okay, then we flew right to New York City after the show.
Okay.
Went to see Bruce Springsteen's One-Off on Broadway that night.
How was that?
Sick. He's so good.
He's amazing.
Now, I gotta tell you, I'm not the biggest Bruce Springsteen fan, but I respect him. I love his music. I know he became a phenomenon like 72, like when we did. And sitting there and watching him be honest and talk to this crowd and sing songs and play the piano and talk his truth. And then he said something like, he goes, you know this New Jersey thing with a pregnant pause? He goes, I invented that. and that was it. He won my heart because when someone says that, it was so real and so true.
But Sinatra.
Man, I love Steven Tyler. I've got his book as well. Can you hear the noise in my head? No, does the noise in my head disturb you or something like that, right? I've got its autobiography somewhere down in my stack of books. Not back here, but somewhere over there because I've got books all over the place. A great fucking interview, and if anything, a sobering idea that anyone out there is, because I've always had a real big bugbear with people who are like, oh, I don't have enough time to do X, Y, and Z, right? The whole time argument, right? Especially when they're trying to achieve their dreams or go for something that they want to do. And I've always had the idea that my frame of work, the way I kind of frame things is, if you have time to do anything you want to do. You just got to make it your priority. And especially if the dream it means enough to you, you will dedicate as much time as it need be in order to kind of get to where you need to get to. Even if you don't eventually get where you want to get to, you eventually will figure out something else you want to do in the process of doing something, right? But the idea that you don't have enough time, and the idea that you have to drop things in order for you to do stuff, like I remember there was this time when my little brothers were like, oh, I have to not have a job in order to kind of do the stuff I want to do outside of work. It's like, that is preposterous, because how are you going to have the funds to fund what you want to do, right? Because you need money to record, you need money to draw, to make something, right? To make prototypes or to sell things. You need money first. So you should work 9 to 5, and then from 6 to 2 or 6 to 1 or 6 to whenever you go to sleep, you should be using all the time that you have free in order to kind of feed back into your dreams, your aspirations. And for the most part, people think that's easy said than done, right? Or they think they're doing it, but they're not really, because as someone like Gary Vee mentions a few times, like, you have time to binge watch Game of Thrones or to finish the entire seasons of Breaking Bad or The Wire, but somehow you don't have enough time to set up a limited company, or to get your first t-shirt printed, or to record your first podcast, or to record the first DJ mix, or to sell a zine, or to make some food, or to sell cupcakes. You have the time to do it. You just got to dedicate every waking minute, every waking second, hour, day that you have free outside of work, outside of looking after your kids, outside of meeting your parents. You have to dedicate that to your craft. And eventually, you dedicate it to your dreams, whatever you want to do, and eventually you'll get there if you're good. It's just one of those things, right? If you're good, of course, it's a variable, but you only realize that once you're doing the thing, and you only realize that if you're self-aware enough to know where you're going wrong and where you're going right, double down, refine, and rinse and repeat. So that was great to see someone that successful talk about how busy they were, right? But not talk about it in a busy way. Just say, because he starts off his kind of like opening rant of, because he wrote it all down on a white bit of paper, which I love too, by saying that he was talking to his assistant and he couldn't figure out what he'd done in the last 2 weeks, but he knows he'd done a lot of things, so they had to kind of like go back in their mental memory and figure out where they've been. And when they did go back, they realized that they'd squeezed so much in the last few days. So it's kind of like, because he's obviously in awe of Joe Rogan, and he went to also show Joe that he's also a winner, right? Winners recognize winners, because Joe's mentioned plenty of times, even in an interview with Eric Griffin recently in another podcast, that as soon as he gets to a place where he's gonna do a show or he's on holiday, the first thing he does is go to the gym, because he knows if he doesn't do it as soon as he lands, he's not gonna do it any other time. So that's the kind of like power of being a real winner, where as soon as you land and you come back home, you're out running, you're out doing stuff, you're out trying to get it. And that was great to see from Steven Tyler, someone, a true rock star who's kind of who's been able to kind of survive, from stuff you read in the book and how he was abusing drugs back in the day, to still see him nowadays, still fit as a fiddle, still singing, still looking amazing, still have a full head of hair, is nothing short of a miracle. But I definitely recommend you check it out. Joe Rogan episode 1116, featuring Steven Tyler from the Aerosmith. An absolutely brilliant interview with one of the last of the living rock stars. So I definitely recommend you check that out. We also wanted to talk about, have you seen these off-white Rimowa luggage bags? Fucking sick. So as I'm sure you're aware, Virgil's been in the cultural zeitgeist at the moment, as it pertains to being the artistic director of Louis Vuitton's menswear, and everything's kind of ramping up for him, and he's kind of landed a collaboration with Rimowa at the moment, the luxury luggage company, and they've kind of pivoted their position in the market since Alex, I think it's Alex or Alexandra, one of the sons of the head of LVMH Group, has kind of taken over Rimowa's operations. So he's kind of, you know, trying to get it back into being a cultural talking point, you know, since their collaboration with Supreme, and they've got a few other things coming out. I'm sure they're going to do a fragment one because Hiroshi's always kind of carrying a Rimowa. Japanese people love Rimowa. The quality of the luggages are something they kind of prescribe to a lot. And Virgil's done one for Off-White, and it looks fucking sick. It's all clear, as you can. I've got it up on the screen here. Hopefully you guys can see. So it's a clear cabin bag with these, you know, with these sort of like quotes on the little compartments inside. I like it because, like, you know, miscellaneous kind of items in there, which is quite cool. Yeah, it's a clear Rimowa bag, like amazing, isn't it? Luggage bag, cabin bag, fucking sick. Got some replacement wheels, some orange wheels there too, which is a nice little detail. I think it looks amazing. I can't wait for that to drop. And I think he mentioned earlier that they're not. I think that Alex mentioned that they're not gonna try and do too many collaborations. They're not gonna try and kind of like overflow the market with remote collaborations. But I think it's a great thing to put out there, especially now with hypebeasts nowadays, all fixated on just buying the most expensive shoes, right? The idea of traveling the world, you know, Virgil's always promoting the fact that he's going different places and traveling. Hopefully Rimowa, in terms of their activation or their promotional or marketing material, they kind of, even though the luggages are really expensive, right? They start from like, I don't know, is it 600 quid or something like that, right? They're not cheap. But maybe there's the idea that buying a Rimowa luggage is something that's going to last you a whole lifetime, right? Because they sell used ones on eBay for quite a lot of money too. So imagine it's going to last you your entire lifetime, and it's something that you can pass down from generation to generation, sort of like a Rolex. And it's also something that kind of encourages people to kind of get out there and experience the world, right? And live a little, right? Go and travel. And you always see people like Virgil posting stuff about him going traveling around Europe or in DJ gigs, and it's less the traveling. It's less the traveling escapades of like a really hot social media girl who's just going to like loads of expensive resorts, and more so a travel escapades of a creative, right? Virgil will go into his design studio in Milan, going to a meeting in New York, visiting his store in New York, going to LA, going to Coachella, DJing at a certain festival. That's what he kind of promotes, and those trips are fairly inexpensive for most people who are able to afford buying shoes on resale. You can afford to go to a Primavera like I did. You can afford to go to a Camp Flogna, the Clients Creators Festival. You can afford to go to a Rolling Loud. You can afford to go to a Duce Palooza. You can afford to go to a Wuha Festival. You can afford to go to places, because if you can buy those trainers, you can buy Off-White Jordans or Off-White Vacant Maxes or Pressos and shit. You can put the money together to go on a trip. So I hope Rimowa's marketing promotion or marketing material or the activation centers itself around the idea of exploration, about getting out there and living, you know, and not just being someone that lives behind a screen or just being a fucking vapid hypebeast. Because as much as I hate hypebeasts and as much as I think it doesn't necessarily take the culture anywhere interesting, I still think it's a good place to start. It's a good starting point. Like, I know when I first got involved in streetwear, that was a point that I came in it from, right? Being the person that wants to wear the most expensive garments, right? The most rarest pieces. You want to one up your mate. The idea, kind of similar to what that kid does on Unknown Vlogs about how much is your outfit. It's kind of cringy now to watch it, but I know when I was younger, I would have liked to have been that person of like, you know, I've got this like 600 quid Margiela jumper, blah, blah, blah. And you add it up and it's like, you know, you're like 15,000 in, right? And it's all rare pieces. So that's sick, but it's a good starting point, because then it gets you educated on different designers, different backgrounds of designers. It gets you interested in different houses, different creative forms of expression. It maybe connects you to different stores around the world. You meet different people. You queue up at different stores. You might be network a bit more, or even just queuing at a different store. You go traveling to Pata or wherever, and you kind of go get exposed to Amsterdam. You might smoke some weed, hang out with some new cool friends. You get exposed to new music, and hopefully it opens your eyes to kind of like traveling the world and kind of like getting out there, you know, and actually taking part in culture for real, and not just doing it from behind the screen. Because the good thing about streetwear, as popular as it is now, people like to complain that it's got too big and stuff. The good thing about it is that it's worldwide, right? You can literally go everywhere around the world and really, really connect with people just based on the clothes that you wear. I remember the story of Aaron Bondaroff, a former model for Supreme and former head of a New York thing and No Wave Radio, said one time when he was stranded in Holland or Amsterdam one time, he was lost and he didn't have any money to get back home because he missed his flight or whatever. He sold stuff that he was wearing, like Supreme bits, like old Supreme bits that he had on him, and he ended up getting a flight back home. And that idea that, you know, that stuff was a currency that was not region specific, country specific, or language specific, that he could connect to people abroad and exchange and barter his items so he could get back home. Like, so that idea of traveling, that idea of connecting with different people is really important, especially if you're someone that's a bit of a cultural tourist. Or what's that shirt that Harry Preston did, that really cool shirt? It's like a, was it world influencer world tour, right? You go to Miami Art Basel, you go to MoMA, you go to the New York Art Book Fair, you go to Coachella, you go to all these cultural significant stuff in the scene. Then I think that's where Romero should really concentrate their promotional material on, as opposed to the idea of just having a piece of luggage at your home and just having it sit there. Like, I hope the kids that bought the Supreme Romero collection don't just have it in their room. It's just sitting there like as an ornament. Like, live it, breathe it, use it. Do you know what I mean? Get it fucked up. Put some stickers on it. Like, do you know what I mean? I saw a guy actually the other day coming back from Primavera who had a backpack with loads of badges of everywhere he's been around the world, right? Of different countries also there, which look fucking cool. And I see people do the same thing with their luggage, Romero luggage. They put stickers from all the places they've been around the world. And it's fairly durable. You can kind of knock it around. So I hope that happens with Romero. I hope they kind of do that. If you guys need any help, of course, holler at the kid. But yeah, the luggage is fucking amazing. I love it. I can't wait for it to drop. Hopefully it's fairly easy to get. And even if it's not, for you that are able to get it, do get it. But then also look to travel, look to get out there. Especially if you live in Europe, it's so cheap to fly mainland in mainland Europe. I went to Barcelona for 160 quid. At the peak time for an amazing festival. I've been to Berlin for £40, £50. I've been to I'm gonna go to Copenhagen for maybe under 100 quid. You go to all these different cool places, really visit places, really connect with culture, really meet people who also have the same interests with you in different countries. Especially if you're wearing cool trainers. Like, I was in Barcelona and people were looking at my wave runners every 2 seconds. I was walking down the street, not because I'm cool, but because they're wave runners and they connect with that. They connect to that item, right? There's a language that we all speak. There's a kind of silent language, a little head nod. You can acknowledge, okay, cool. If I'm wearing wave runners, we probably like the same sort of music. We probably like the same sort of designers, and we can kind of start talking. And that's how I kind of got involved in doing the stuff that I'm doing now, or just kind of got involved in culture in general, just from kind of being a participant, but also going to things. And there's nothing more evident than that piece recently with a kid that went to the Wyoming, the Ye album listening party in Wyoming. He drove 6 hours down to Wyoming, was head to toe in Yeezy, bumped into one of Yeezy's Kanye's mates, and got talking and kind of finessed himself into the gig. And that story isn't representative of what actually happens all the time, right? Sometimes you can do that, drive 6 hours and still not get in. But the idea is that you're there. You have the context of being there, right? So that kid has a different idea of what the album means to him, because he's actually in that room where the listening experience was happening, right? So it's less about the achievement of getting in there. It's also about the process of going out there, experiencing new things, connecting with people, going to different places, eating new food, smelling new things, hearing different sounds, seeing different bits of architecture. Like, you know, especially if you live in London and you go to Prague, it's a completely different architecture from what you've definitely been used to seeing. Or even places like Berlin, it's a bit dilapidated, graffiti everywhere, buildings crumbling, stuff. Do you know what I mean? It's just that idea of just like really living and really connecting the stuff that you wear, the stuff that you listen to where you're going. You know, that should be something really, especially if you're into the SoundCloud stuff. You have to go to LA. Like, go to LA and see where these kids are from. Go to Miami, go see where these kids are actually coming from. Go and see where it's about. Go to Harlem and see where it's Rocky's come from, and see where Dipset, all that things has been at, and just kind of connect with culture for real. And that will kind of inform you. And then later on in life, you can kind of evolve, you know, and get away from the whole hype beast tag. That gets a bit shitty. So hopefully Remo will do that and promote the luggage in that way. But I'm happy to see them kind of, you know, really get themselves into the cultural zeitgeist and really get themselves in conversation. And hopefully you see loads of kids with loads of Remo backpack luggages. I have this shit sort of like copy Remo that isn't Remo. I took off the label, right? But I really want to get one. So if anyone out there wants to give me a Ramoa, holler at your boy. So yeah, what else to talk about? Fellaini's leaving hopefully soon, going to Arsenal. That's the play that Arsenal always fucking deserve, isn't it? Mara and Fellaini. And he's somehow holding out for a better deal. How he's managed to put himself in a position where people are fighting for his signature is amazing, right? For someone who lacks that much in talent, right? Isn't it? It's fucking insane how that's happened. I don't know what people see in him, but, you know, if Arsenal want to sign him, then see you later, my friend. What else? Oh, like I mentioned before, I'm DJing at the Heathcote and Star on June 24th. at the Heathcote Star June 24th for another night of Liberties. It's just going to be me solo this time. Last time I did it with my good friend Lucas Keane, but this time it's going to be a solo set. So I'll be playing for 4 hours at the Heathcote Star. More info will be posted up on the agostinhozinga.com, my website. You have to check the flyer, see the event listing on Facebook and Resident Advisor, all that sort of good stuff. I'm also playing this Friday at Tap East this Friday at in Westfield, Stratford, from 7 to 11. It's a little pub just on the outside, just behind Stratford International DLR station, if you're familiar with the area. Tap East on Friday, the 8th of June. I'll be playing some tunes from 7 to 11. So come down there if you want to have a little boogie and live in Stratford. And apart from that, I don't have any more trips planned, do I? I don't think so. I usually have all my trips on my little whiteboard. So Primavera Sound's kind of come and gone. I'm probably going to go to Berlin again in September. Probably might go to Lovebox on the Saturday just to see NERD play. That's going to happen in July. So next month, hopefully go to NERD. So if you're around Lovebox Festival in London and you see the kid, holler at your boy. And that's about it, isn't it? World Cup's coming up very, very soon. About 8 days. So that should be interesting. Taking part in Russia. See what happens there. Hopefully there's no trouble that kicks off. I don't know who's going to win the World Cup because, you know, it's just, I don't know. Like, I remember reading a list of World Cup winners. There's been no back-to-back winners since 64 or something, right? So it'll be interesting to see who wins it this time around. Brazil have some PTSD from, you know, losing 7-1 in the final to Germany, especially after Neymar got injured. So they might have to come back and, you know, restore some of their pride. France also have a very good, strong squad. Spain, of course, have a very strong squad. Germany, very strong squad. Even without Leroy Sané, who everyone's kind of got their pants of twist about, he's not been in the squad. So it's going to be very interesting to see. England might surprise people. Of course, they probably won't because, you know, they're not that great in general. And I tend not to support England because anytime you support England, they always let you down. So I just tend to like watch it from afar. But hopefully we do well. And yeah, that's about it really, isn't it? It's summertime. Summer moments are coming now. I'm back from Primavera, feeling absolutely amazing, even though my nose is blocked and I've got my hay fever's back in full action. What can you do? This has been the Agostinho Zinga Show, episode number 74. Thanks again for tuning in. It means a lot. As always, please check me out on YouTube. I upload all the podcasts out on video format on YouTube too, at Agostinho Zinga. Just type it into your YouTube channel. You're able to see me. Like, subscribe, share. Of course, make sure you leave a review on the podcast, on iTunes and shit or whatever, so other people can find it. And as always, I'll see you again later on this week. I'm going to try and do 2 this week. I'm going to try and do another one on Thursday. And then I'll tune in again with you on Thursday. Check you guys out again on Thursday. Thanks again for tuning in to Agostinho Zinga Show, episode number 74. I'm going to leave you with a little song from the Kanye West album. I think I'm going to play... What should I play at the end song to end this podcast? Let me play... I played No Mistakes. Yeah, I played No Mistakes to end this. So Kanye West, No Mistakes will be up now to end this podcast. Episode number 74 of the Agostinho Zinga Show. Thanks for tuning in. See you again very soon. For all info regarding my DJ sets and all that malarkey, please check out agostinhozinga.com. It'll probably have the main flyer that I'm going to be putting up. I'll probably put up a listing page too of all the list of stuff that I'm doing very, very soon. Now we're out. See ya.